Good afternoon. The meeting will now come to order. Hello, I am Marcia Herbert, President of the Board of Education. I would like to welcome you to the April 14th, 2021 board meeting. In keeping with the board's commitment to open communication with the community, this meeting is being streamed live on the CCPS website at www.carrollk12.org and broadcast live on Channel 21. We are also recording this meeting so that it can be accessed on demand on our website and broadcast throughout the month on Channel 21. Board members and most staff are present in the boardroom. Some staff may be participating virtually. Citizen participation is scheduled on the agenda for approximately 5:15 and 6:30. Speakers will be allowed in the boardroom individually for the allotted 3 minutes to address the board. Citizens who wish to speak must adhere to the guidelines and safety precautions we have previously publicized in communication about public comment for this meeting. Citizens must wear a mask while in the building and also when addressing the board. I would remind us all to silence our cell phones and other devices around us that the microphones may pick up. Also, we should each silence our microphones when we are not speaking. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I need the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Dr. Dorsey and second by
I'll second.
Ms. Battaglia. Comments, questions, changes? If not, may I call for the vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? Passed unanimously. At this time, I would like to have someone motion for the approval of the minutes for March 10th, 2021.
So
By Ms. Savigny and
I'll second.
Ms. Battaglia, second. Comments, questions, corrections? I know we had some sent in, which I really appreciate. Any other corrections? I call for the vote. All those signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. And before we go to the government, it is so nice to see people in this room. It is just one more step of getting back to normalcy, and I want to thank you all. This is a nice layout, so I'm just so glad to see people. At this time, we will have the Carroll County Government Report, please.
Well, good evening, board members. I'd like to start off with the good news that the Ways and Means Committee thought favorably about House Bill 0753 and the students' right to protest. Though the bill technically failed, many students across Maryland had testified for it, and so the Maryland Student Coalition hopes that our efforts will further the cause next year. We also got Century High School and Manchester Valley High School registered as members of the Maryland Association of Student Councils, so CCSGA is growing involvement at the state level.
We also recently held our staff meeting just a few days ago, and we discussed the course of CCSGA officer elections for the next school year. We have a tentative date for the election being May 5th, but more information will be out on our Instagram at carroll.sga once it's finalized. Remember that applications for elections are due April 16th, so be sure to send in all of your materials to Mr. Melhorn if you're applying for president, vice president, secretary, or second vice president.
That is all. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your work. All right, at this time, we have a special recognition. Dr. Lockhart.
Thank you, board members. Good evening, everybody. I am probably a little emotional to be able to share with you the recognition this evening for some employees and an extraordinary student in our school system. Back in January, one of our students, Jackson Reed, had a medical emergency and collapsed while in class. And some heroic efforts ensued and literally saved Jackson's life, which you're going to hear a little bit about this evening. Due to the efforts of Deputy DeMonte Harvey, school nurse Lynn Runk, Principal Brian Booz, and the staff at Century High School, along with first responders, the Winfield Fire Department, we are able to have this celebration and recognition this evening. And so I'm going to ask Principal Booz to come up to the podium and give a little bit of perspective on the events of that day. And then as we go, we'll introduce folks that are here this evening so you can recognize the scope and significance of what we're celebrating this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Locker. Thank you, Board of Ed, for having us all here tonight. And Dr. Locker, you probably won't be the only person to be a little bit emotional about recounting the events of January 8th. So Friday morning, January 8th, school day started like a normal day in pandemic, hybrid, whatever we want to expect or call it. And Jackson Reed, junior at Century High School, great young man. He's in JRTC class, and that particular day they were in our activity room or wrestling room to do PT, start some physical training, get some workout in, typical protocol for JRTC. And about 20 minutes into class, we have students from Liberty and South Carroll that join us every day for our JRTC program. Nothing had really started. They had just gotten down to the gym and had lined up in formation for instruction, and Jackson suffered a medical emergency. We were fortunate to have two instructors in the class, First Sergeant Walt Soteric and Lieutenant Colonel Lee Mitchell, both being retired military men and lots of training and protocol. They were able to respond quickly. They were able to attend to Jackson. They were able to call for help and get students out of the room. I hate to say that in my tenure at Century, we've had plenty of medical emergencies where a call comes across the radio and says we have a situation, we need administration, we need a nurse, and we drop whatever we're doing and we get there. I happened to be on the other side of the building when this happened, so by the time I got to the room, Nurse Runk was already there with the go bag and the wheelchair. Deputy Harvey was there with her, and assistant principals Jane Clark and Kim Stem were right behind. So we got there, and First Sergeant and Lieutenant Colonel were telling us that they thought Jackson was having some sort of seizure. It appeared that he was in obvious medical distress, and we immediately assessed. Nurse Runk was assessing and right there on top of him, checking everything, and within a very short period of time, we determined that this was as serious of an emergency as it gets. Did not have breathing happening, did not see chest rising, and Lynn, Nurse Runk, said, we need to start chest compressions. She started right away. DeMont, like I said, this is hard to get through. DeMont was right there, and Lynn and DeMont went back and forth with chest compressions. I had to instruct Jane Clark to go and call the Reeds and say, you need to get them on the phone. She actually called before we started chest compressions to say, he's going to be going to the hospital. It'll be Carroll. We want you to meet him there. And as things started to rapidly decline, Lynn called out, we need the AED, and I instructed Brian Hollingsworth, one of our hall monitors, to go get the AED, which is in our lobby. And about 3 seconds after he went, it dawned on me we had one closer in the athletic trainer's room, so we were able to get that immediately. In all the training that we go through, I've been in the school system for 21 years, and as a teacher, as a coach, as former Eagle, I've had first aid training, I don't know how many times. You never, ever think you're going to need to use it. And through repetition, through training, it all just started to happen. And Lynn and DeMont were relentless. There was no hesitation. There was no pause. There was no second guessing. Everybody in the room was able to stay calm and focused and train the attention on Jackson. We had called for 911 as soon as we got there. I believe DeMont was the one to call it in on his radio. The front office was trying to call as well, but DeMont, having his quick connection and radio, was able to get that in. And in my opinion, I know we talked about this and debriefed numerous times, it felt like it was probably about 185 minutes before emergency services got there. I think after we looked back at the tapes and the recordings and realized when Winfield showed up, it was about 8.5 or 9 minutes. That felt like a lifetime. And in that time, Demont, Lynn were administering chest compressions. They put the AED on Jackson. When you train, it's nothing like it is in real life. That thing senses everything, it reads everything, it advises shock. I hate the fact that we had to shock Jackson, but thank God we did. Thank God we did. And when Winfield got there, they immediately came in, they immediately set up their AD as well. They set up a Lucas machine, which I'd never heard of before, but it helped administer chest compressions. It was the scariest moment in my life, because I thought, I thought the worst was going to happen. And it was terrifying, and you felt helpless, but we never stopped. Lynn never stopped, Demont never stopped, Jackson never stopped. And it was quite a moment. I had to have Jane Clark, our assistant principal, call Miss Reed back and say, we need you to get here. And they came to school. And in the 30 to 40 minutes that Winfield EMTs were working on Jackson, the Reeds showed up. They came down with us. We were all scared. We weren't sure what was happening. They finally were able to get Jackson breathing, stabilized, and in a place where they could move him and transport him. I also want to mention with the fine EMTs that came from Winfield, one was one of our students who was home working virtually and had the fire call come through, and she bolted and got to the fire station and helped save one of her students' lives. From there, the Reeds can add more if they like, or Jackson can add more. But he went to Carroll and was medevac to Johns Hopkins and was intensive care. Just very serious situation for several days. But when we talked Friday evening and Saturday evening, each little step was getting better. And, embarrassing him and putting him on the spot. But Jackson's here right now and doing wonderful. And there are so many good people and so many, one of the most amazing things about this whole process was how everybody kept it together. I mean, we were all panicking inside, we were all scared inside, we were all terrified, but we acted as a team. And Lynn and Demont were at the head of that team, making it happen, saving Jackson's life. In my 21 years in the system, I've gotten to know so many law enforcement officers, work in security games as a coach, as an administrator, since the SROs have been in the building. And we have an outstanding department, so thank you, Sheriff DeWeese, for that. But I will not trade Demont Harvey for anything. And if any of this results in any kind of promotion, I will take this all back and say he's terrible. You can't have him or take him anywhere else. Lynn Runk has just, I have to say, throughout this entire ordeal, has dealt with COVID calls, hundreds on a weekly basis, has dealt with every range of emotion. And as soon as all of this ended with Jackson, we had to go right into other situations to deal with the school. They don't stop. They don't quit. They don't take time to think about themselves. I am very, very fortunate and very lucky to have them as members of the Century staff. So very grateful, very appreciative, and just very lucky to have such great people surrounding us. So, thank you.
And we would agree with you, Principal Booth. Thank you so much for your comments. At this time, I'm going to ask Board of County Commissioners President, Commissioner Ed Rothstein to the podium for a presentation and some remarks.
Well, I'm not sure how to follow that, so it's a bit unfair. I was asked if I wanted to do this virtual or in person. I probably should have said virtual because that was definitely a tough act to follow. What you defined was leadership in the midst of chaos. And, some of us here have been military. I mean, I served for 30 years, and that's what I was thinking as I was thinking through this. So I'm talking from a commissioner, I'm talking from a soldier, but really I'm talking from a neighbor and a community, member. My kids went to Century, and I'm so proud of the community of being a Carroll Countyan. And Sheriff DeWeese and I were together this morning. We talked about first responders in our community and how blessed we are. We're talking about folks that go into the line of fire, that go into the fire as others are walking out. I never thought that would be happening in a school at Century High School. That's exactly what happened. They went into the fire, and for all the right reasons. You panic on the inside, but you keep moving, and you let the training come out. So I really appreciate all that you've done. You're an incredible definition of leadership, of resiliency, of community, and the list just goes on and on. There's no magnificent words of wisdom you can give at this except really two words, and that's thank you. Thank you for representing us. Thank you for making us just one step prouder to be a Carroll Countyan. And we do have certificates of recognition and just small tokens of, from us to you. Without my glasses, it needs to be about 5 feet longer, but that's all right. In recognition of your quick response to the severity of the medical emergency and your immediate actions of effective CPR and other techniques which resulted directly in saving the life of a junior ROTC student on January 8th, 2021. For this, we are grateful and commend you for your life-saving efforts, and signed by all commissioners. But the real two words from me to you is thank you for all that you do. So if you can, just come on up here, and I'll give you these. And I got a challenge coin. If you know what a challenge coin is, you have it on you at all times. That's good. So when I challenge you, I buy you a beer or a beverage. If you don't have it, then you get to buy me a beer or a beverage. Here's for you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And that's for you there. Thank you. Sure thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. You've heard a little bit from Principal Booz and Commissioner Rothstein about the training and preparation and acting. We also enjoy a tremendous partnership with many agencies here in Carroll County. None more stronger, I believe, than our partnership and collaboration with Sheriff DeWeese and the Carroll County Sheriff's Department. And at this time, I'd ask Sheriff DeWeese and Colonel Hart to the podium for any remarks that they have and presentation.
I usually ask the colonel to stand a good distance away from me because I look really short. Standing next to him. Thanks, Dr. Lockhart, and elected board members. Thank you for having us here. It is a true honor, and it means an awful lot to us that you brought them on here and you're recognizing him publicly. We did a couple weeks ago at our annual award ceremony, and we can't recognize him enough, but Lynn, we have a history. So she takes care of everything from runny noses to CPR and middle-aged women with high blood pressure, my wife, when she was at North Carroll High School. And so you can't put a value on a school nurse. They're so unsung and wonderful, wonderful people in all of our schools. But let me tell you about DeMont Harvey. So he's a good man. There's no doubt about that. And Principal Booz, there would be a complete mutiny on my hands if I decided to pull him from Century High. But DeMont does not miss a holiday where he will send me a text saying, God bless Sheriff, or God has a plan. I'm praying for you, Sheriff, and it could be Father's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving. I get a message from Harvey at some point, and that's the relationship that we have. But I will tell you, on January 8th, Harvey, God had a plan, and it was to put all of you in the same room with Jackson. And it was to make sure that Jackson was in school that day, so he was around the two of you and some military soldiers that I know had wonderful training and a staff and administration that made sure that Jackson lived another day. So you know I'm proud of you, and you know I absolutely love you and everything that you do. And Century High is a better school because DeMont's there. There's no doubt about it. All the schools in this county are better because our deputies, the right deputies, are in those schools. And when I walk around with DeMont, the kids come up to me and they don't care about bars and stars and stripes or anything like that. They ask me if I work for Harvey. Do you work for him, Harvey? Is this a guy that works for you? And they don't understand it, and it's the innocence in their eyes because they love him. And in many ways, I do work for DeMont Harvey, and all of you work for the people that are in the schools every single day doing the job. So, DeMont, congratulations. I'm extraordinarily proud of you. Lynn, thank you for everything that you do, and I'm extraordinarily proud of you. And Jackson, live your best life. Do good things. Congratulations, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. At this time, I want to introduce the Reed family. Joining us this evening is Jackson Reed, a Century High School student who you've heard about. Jackson's mother, Janelle, his father, Tommy, and his brother, Brody. They're here with us this evening. You all are welcome. If you have any comments you'd like to make, no pressure, you don't have to, but you're welcome to go to the podium if you'd like to this evening.
I'm going to try. I got a little rattle going through the day again. I'm Jackson's proud father. I'm a salesman, and of course the last year's been tough. I mean, you can't read people's faces, but you can read their eyes. And when they called us to the school, I mean, I knew immediately the severity of the situation by reading people's eyes. We thought we'd lost him. But I just wanted, the perseverance and the expertise of Officer Harvey and Lynn, and of course Principal Booth. Just thank you from the bottom of our heart for the gift of our son. We can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Hello, I am the boy who lived, Harry Potter. Like has been mentioned, I'm a Century student. I actually got the pleasure of meeting Dr. Dorsey one time in my teaching class. So when I thought that I'd be in this room, I thought I'd be for a different situation. I didn't think that it would be because I died. However, I'm here now for that reason. Like everyone said, God did have a plan. I should have been there at school that day. I haven't been to school since for a school day, obviously, but if I wasn't in school that day, I wouldn't have made it. I know for sure. I know Deputy Harvey, Miss Lynn, Mr. Booz saved my life. First Sergeant Soteric, Mr. Hollingsworth, the Winfield volunteer, everyone helped me that day. They put their issues beside them, something that I don't think that I could do in a situation like that. Something that I don't think any normal person can do. That's why all those people, Deputy Harvey, Miss Lynn, they are not normal people, they are heroes. They are not people to be passed on the street. They're people to get autographs from, really. So I hope that if anyone has a medical emergency like me ever, that you're at Century High School, because that's one of the safest places in the world. I don't want anyone to have a medical emergency, but if you do, you better hope Deputy Harvey's around. I don't really cry, but seeing my parents like this is not easy. I mean, if it happened to me, it could happen to anyone. The doctors at the hospital said I have a really healthy heart, so they don't know. We still don't know exactly what happened. It just happened, and luckily I was there, and everyone saved my life. But today is not about me. It is about honoring Mr. Harvey and Miss Lynn. So I just want to keep that in mind while I leave this. Thank you.
I'm sure that this is the quietest the board's been in a long time, so I'm
Yes.
sure, I'm kidding, of course. I'm sure they have some comments they'd like to share.
Who wants to go first? Anybody want to say anything? Mr. Kyler?
Parents, you've got a lot to be proud of. Very, very well spoken, and everybody. It's a miracle, and you guys were there. Principal Booz, you got a good staff. You got a good bunch of people. Sheriff DeWeese. I'm not going to say don't promote him. I can't be as selfish as Brian, but but I understand it. But no, thank you everyone, and I feel like we probably ought to make a motion to adjourn because it's not going to get much better than this the rest of the night. So thank you all.
Yeah, I guess
We'll
I'll
just
say,
go right on around.
Jackson, you said you don't cry, and I tend to not either, and I was getting very emotional as all of this was being said tonight. So very eloquent. Your parents, I'm sure, are so proud. And I do want to echo your comments about the heroes that are in the room tonight. And it's just an amazing story. Thank you for telling it. Thank you for sharing with us all. And I just want to thank all of you for being the amazing people and heroes in our school system.
Yeah, I think we're all basically going to say the same thing. Is it's an incredible story, and it's a very heartwarming story, and it is one that you look back and go, good things came from a bad situation. It could have been worse, and it just goes to say how wonderful our first responders, our nurses, our SROs, how wonderful they are, and how quick and their training just, it shows. So thank you all.
Jackson, it's wonderful seeing you again. And I sit here and the words that come to my mind is what a gift life is. Life is certainly a gift, and it's certainly up to us to use this gift to the best of our abilities. And when I put myself back in a school situation and in a school setting, and I know how we have so many moving parts happening in a school at the same time, and then when we have a crisis that's happening on top of all of these other moving parts, it is really a testament to all of the folks that we've mentioned tonight, the SRO officer, the nurse, the principal, the AD, everybody who pulled together, the Winfield Fire Department, everybody pulled together to work and help this precious life. So I am just so grateful and so thankful that things turned out in a positive way for you, Jackson. And again, I'm sure that as you go forward, you're going to be using your precious gift of life to do some great things. So congratulations, and really thanks to everyone who was a part of that team who pulled together to help Jackson. And parents, I can only imagine your feelings as you were just en route to the school, just trying to get there to be with your son. So I'm so grateful that you were able to make it there safely, to be with them, and I know that you'll continue to support him. So again, just many thanks to everyone. You're all heroes, and I am just grateful for what you were able to do for Jackson.
Well, Devanshi, do you want to go ahead first? Go ahead.
Well, there's honestly not much more I can say beyond what's already been said. That, as a student, that must have been a very scary situation overall. So just thank you to everyone, the SROs, the health staff, the Century admin staff, everyone.
And I will go last. Sheriff DeWeese, I don't know how you did this, but I have visited the schools, the high schools all around the county, and I don't know how you placed all your SROs, but they all fit the school. Manchester, Francis Scott Key. I've never met this young gentleman, but thank you very much. But they've all been a key ingredient of each school. We could not, the SRO program has been an absolute wonderful addition to our system, and I can't thank you enough of how you've placed those sheriffs there. And here is just one example, a positive example of what they can do. And I thank you. Mr. Booz, I thank you. I know his family. His parents and I all went to Frostburg together. He came back to Carroll County himself and even coached at North Carroll lacrosse. Him and his dad love lacrosse and always have. And Lynn Runk and I have a special bond. She was a phenomenal nurse and always went above and beyond the duty at North Carroll. And yes, she did have to take care of Sheriff DeWeese's wife on certain days. But she just is that type of person. She would always go above and beyond. So I want to thank you. I'm sorry that we had to meet you in this situation, but I am so happy that it turned out to be a positive experience for everyone. I can't thank the SROs enough, and Ms. Ronk and Mr. Booz and everyone that took part in saving his life today. And it was so nice meeting you. And thank you all from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Herbert and board. And once again, Deputy Harvey, Nurse Runk, Sheriff DeWeese, Principal Booz and staff, everybody who played a part, and of course, Jackson and the Reed family, thank you so much for being here. We are more than happy to recognize these folks and share the story and have you here with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
I
We
think
really
we'll take
appreciate
maybe
it.
a 1 minute kind of,
Yes.
unless folks really want to stick around for our meeting, about a 1 minute opportunity for folks
Yes.
to go ahead and transition.
Right, and now we will continue, and at this time, we will have public participation. Mr. Kyler.
To have an orderly presentation of comments by the public, the following guidelines apply. Speakers will be allowed in the boardroom individually for the allotted 3 minutes to address the board. Citizens who wish to speak must adhere to the social distancing guidelines and safety precautions we have previously publicized in communications about public comments for this meeting. All citizens must wear a mask in the building and when addressing the board. Citizens not appearing in person for public comment can write to the board through email or U.S. mail. Citizen participation is not intended to be question and answer session. However, if citizens have specific questions, the superintendent will assign a staff member to make contact during the meeting to arrange a time to respond to questions. The superintendent board reserved the right to correct misinformation presented as factual after the conclusion of citizen participation period. Statements to the board should relate to a recent agenda item, an agenda item that is expected to appear in the future, or a matter of general policy over which the board has authority. Personnel matters, pending appeals, the actions or statements of individual staff, or items related to employee negotiations are not appropriate topics and may not be discussed. It is the intent of the board to allow all citizens an opportunity to speak. Therefore, the board has scheduled time on the agenda for citizen participation at approximately 5:15 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. The board reserves the right to limit the number of speakers on a particular topic so that all topics may be addressed. If 30 minutes have passed and there are citizens who have not addressed the board, additional time may be allotted later in the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. When the allotted time expires, the speaker is permitted to complete a sentence. The public may not display signs or posters during the board meeting. In lieu of signs, or if you are unable to complete your comments in the allotted time, individuals are encouraged to submit remarks to the board in writing. I think our first and only speaker is Amy Sharpneck.
Dear members, Board of Education, Dr. Lockhart and Commissioner Rosling, I am speaking tonight to offer a big thank you. Thank you for keeping Wednesdays flexible. Thank you for allowing teachers to use their best judgment and how the needs of their students need to be met. Let me share what an average Wednesday looks like for me in kindergarten. I begin my morning by meeting with my whole class for ELA instruction. Then I meet with 2 different small groups which focus on skills that students need. Next, my students have their lunch and recess break. Then I meet with 4 more students separately to either assess or work on their individual skills as needed. Next, I meet again with all my students for math instruction at an additional 2 groups to focus on those skills and review. Finally, I usually meet with another 2 to 3 students separately to either assess or work on an individual skill. As you can see, Wednesdays for me are very similar to any other day. The only difference is I'm able to tailor the groups and the individual meets to the needs of my students based on classroom observation and data. The only Wednesday I was not back-to-back was the day I received my second shot in the middle of my teaching block. However, work was still provided for the students, and I felt very guilty that I wasn't on with them. I too had heard rumors that Wednesdays would be taken away and became very concerned. I was concerned for multiple reasons. The first is I still have 5 students who are completely virtual. On Wednesdays, I'm allowed that opportunity to connect with them one-to-one, as I do with my other students who are in person during arrival and dismissal. I can continue to build that rapport and give that support. I'm able to give feedback and protect their dignity without other students hearing the conversation, just as I would in the classroom for every other student. I'm also able to use that Wednesday time to assess. In kindergarten, our assessments are given one-to-one. By utilizing time on Wednesday to meet with students, I'm able to keep normal instruction the 4 other days of the week. This limits the interruptions to routines and instruction. For ELA, I have 16 assessments per student. Many of these assessments have multiple questions. For math, our benchmark averages 20 problems per student. These assessments give valuable information, but they do take time. I know that the flexibility of the Wednesdays depends on the school and the teaching position. I know that my schedule is not the same as others in the county. However, I end tonight with a thank you and a plea. Thank you for allowing me to use my professional knowledge and judgment to do what's best for my students. And please continue to keep the Wednesdays flexible for teachers so we can support all of our student learners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now from employee groups, Kelly McDonough from CCEA.
And before she speaks, President Rothstein, Commissioner Weaver is on now. I just want to give you the heads up.
Sounds great to me.
Okay. I knew you were waiting for that, so I thought.
Commissioner, we can turn Mr. Weaver off if you want.
No, he's running out the door.
Gone.
Good evening, Superintendent, Board of Education members, and apparently Commissioner Weaver. I'm Kelly McDonough, Vice President of CCA. I want to speak to you tonight about a concern of ours as we head into the finalization of the budget season, a hopeful recruiting season, and finalization of negotiations. Our nation, our state, and our county is facing a teacher shortage, made all the more critical because of COVID. Colleges in Maryland, according to Maryland's Higher Education Secretary Jim Fielder has had a 25% decrease in enrollment in the last year. This comes on the heels of a decade-long decrease in enrollment of teaching candidates into these programs. The decrease in Maryland was over 40% in that decade. And those statistics are based on the U.S. Department of Education Title II reports. Here's what's most pertinent in this room, though. Most teachers want to work within 15 miles of their home. So this massive crisis, this shortage, will need to be addressed by you, the people sitting in this room. While the Economic Policy Institute acknowledges that the shortage has been caused by multiple factors and will need to be addressed by a comprehensive set of solutions, they specifically mentioned 3 things that the chiefs, the cabinet, and the Board of Education members can address. Low pay, that's within your hands. Uneven opportunities for professional growth, that's in the hands of the cabinet, the chiefs, the superintendent. Lack of respect and prestige for the profession, also well within your hands. The complexity of the challenge calls for coordinated efforts from multiple stakeholders. I believe we have multiple stakeholders also in the room. Increased public investments in education. Oh, Commissioner Weaver, in your hands. treating teachers as professionals and teaching as a professional. Increase teacher pay to keep seasoned teachers at CCPS, as well as attract new teachers. 56% of your teaching staff has more than 15 years of experience. That means that the lack of teaching candidates who are going into the profession is going to increasingly become a problem for you. You need to elevate teacher voice and nurture stronger learning communities to increase teacher influence and sense of belonging. Now, that sense of belonging piece, that's something that you just saw an article written in the Carroll County Times about, because I know that you want to attract a more diverse teaching staff that's better for our more diverse learners, and that's definitely an issue that I know that you all have been working on. And that's also a problem when we start talking about teachers wanting to work within 15 miles of their home. That means we also need to be attracting diverse people to move into our county. And I know that's also something that the commissioners want to work on. So it's within the purview of people in this room and people listening in the room, virtually in the room. We also need you to lower barriers to teaching that affect teachers' ability to do their job and thus their morale. We need to design teacher professional supports that strengthen teachers' sense of purpose, their career development, and their effectiveness. So I want to leave you with some think abouts. What are you going to do to make people want to come here and teach? Have you thought outside of the box, particularly for sorry, my mouth is so dry behind this mask. Particularly for the diverse teaching force who looks like our student, who doesn't reside within the county. How are we going to give them that sense of belonging? And one thing that I want to really ask you, do you have plans to debrief teachers after this year about what extensions, what paid add-ons, those things, what things worked, what things didn't, what do they want to keep? Because I know that teachers have been so overwhelmed, so busy, just putting one foot in front of the other, but this has been a massive learning experience for everyone. And I know that if you ask them now, they're just like, oh my God, I have to worry about what I'm teaching in 5 minutes. But this would be a great opportunity to ask them, to have that teacher voice. They want to tell you, they're dying to talk about it, just not yet. But I think that it's a great opportunity to have people share that. And I know you did all these town halls, and attendance maybe wasn't great. But I would encourage you to get out of central office and to talk to people. But I'm gonna be honest, you're gonna have to go to them. Because even before the pandemic, people were overwhelmed. Because you do have a teaching staff that is so dedicated. They're here. Here's one of the things that sadly I'm gonna tell you has happened in the last year. People always thought about working here that it was like a family. And I think with everything with the pandemic and this kind of us against them, go back into the schools, don't go back into the schools, it's safe, it's not safe. There was a lot of us and them feeling, no matter what side you are on. And I think a lot of that was lost, and I think that there's a lot of work to be done on bringing us back to that feeling, because a lot of people don't feel that way anymore. So I do think there's gonna be a lot of just rebuilding of that. But I think some of this listening to teachers, listening to everybody, I think would go a long way. But you have people who love their job, they love their kids. You talk to any teacher, they talk about their kids. And people were overwhelmed before the pandemic because you have a bunch of workaholics, because they love their job and they want to do their best. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Because this is probably the last time I'll speak to you as Vice President, because I have termed out. It has been my pleasure to be the Vice President and to work with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For case, Sydney Porter.
Good evening, Dr. Lockard, board members, and Commissioner Weaver. My name is Cindy Porter, and I am the Secretary of CASE, representing secretaries, clericals, LPNs, and instructional assistants here tonight on behalf of our president, Diane Deal. In this unprecedented year, filled with constant change, CASE has facilitated historical recognition for our members. Our consistent hard work, dedication, and love of the students of Carroll County Public Schools has shone like a bright light for all to see. This level of recognition has been achieved through the efforts of many. I would like to begin by thanking our UNISERV, John Gates, along with the CASE Board of Directors, who have worked countless hours to ensure that our members are recognized for stepping up and going above and beyond during this pandemic. Thank you also to John O'Neill and Chantris Baptist for their willingness to listen to our creative ideas. In doing so, it helped to keep our students learning during a very challenging time in their school careers. Thank you to our Board of Education members for realizing the importance of our ESPs in the everyday education of our students and for recognizing us for the professionals we are. Affording us a seat at the table will continue to benefit the students in CCPS as we continue to move forward beyond this pandemic. And finally, thank you to all of the members of our bargaining unit for your dedication, consistency, flexibility, and willingness to do whatever it takes to benefit the students of Carroll County. While the pandemic has been stressful on all of us in many ways, the flexibility and determination of our bargaining unit members have proven that great strides can still be made for the benefit of the students we serve, even in the midst of challenging times. We truly are all in this together, and it is together that we will continue to move through and beyond this. Especially this year, we have seen that without our ESPs, our schools would not be able to function as they do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And now we will move on to the COVID-19 updates. Dr. Lockhart.
Thank you, President Herbert. At this time, I believe Maggie Kuntz from the Carroll County Health Department is here filling in for Mr. Singer this evening. And Maggie's going to present some of the traditional metrics and updates and vaccination updates as well that we look at. Then we're also going to hear some COVID-related updates from staff regarding graduation and athletics. So with that, Ms. Kuntz, if you are on and available.
Great, I apologize. Can you hear me this time?
There, now we have you.
Excellent. Okay, great. Sorry about that. That happens about every fifth time. So good evening, board members, and I've enjoyed listening to the stories this evening. So thank you for inviting me. Covering for Ed Singer this evening. Just kind of a brief update. Not too much going on, but I'll just go over our slides and feel free to ask questions at any point. So if you could go to the next slide. Whenever you're ready. There we go. So this graph, the commissioners had asked us to develop a graphic representation of the data that we have been following. This sort of the second set of metrics that the CDC had recommended, which were fairly similar to the first. So we did develop this graph, which just shows that the transmission, those new cases, total new cases per 100,000 per week. And there's two metrics that the CDC is now asking us to follow in terms of school openings and just school actions, basically. And one of them is the new cases per 100,000 in the past 7 days, and that's what's represented in this graph. And you can see that's currently in the high range, going down just a little bit, but higher than we'd like to see it. The other one is the positivity rate, which we've, of course, been following now for many months. It has been recently a little bit over 5, but has dropped. So it's in the moderate range, but has dropped a little bit. And so that is, less concern than the total number of new cases. So hard to put them both in the same graph. So just have the numbers there on the side for the positivity rate. But as you see, the positivity rate has gone up. It was a little bit over the state's rate. Now it's around the same as the state's rate, hovering around 5 there. So the CDC, you'll see on the next slide, the CDC guidance, this is very hard to read, I apologize. The CDC guidance did change just a little bit of an update. They did talk about those two metrics that we just looked at. They suggest that if the two metrics don't match, if they don't put you in the same transmission level, that you follow the one that's higher. So in that case, we would follow the cases per 100,000, which would put us in the high transmission in the red. But as I hope you can read, that really the significant difference between those different levels is not closing schools. It's really more just just actions and the importance of distancing and things like that. So it's really just a few actions that they recommend, being a little more careful about distancing between students, cohorting when possible, and kind of some limits on extracurricular activities. So that's really the main difference with that higher level. So that did change in the CDC guidance. And then as you see on the left side of this graph, or this slide, you'll see just a few prevention strategies that I think the school system has been very consistent about following. So we're not surprised, by any of them. The universal and correct use of masks, physical distancing, hand washing, and covering your coughs and sneezes, cleaning facilities often, and contact tracing with isolation and quarantine. So I know the school has been following all of those principles, and those are really the prevention strategies that the CDC is highlighting in this, in this review of metrics. So next slide, please. The next several slides really just cover our community statistics that we keep an eye on. You'll see that all of them reflect, since the last time we presented, which was in early March, you'll see all of them reflect a little bit of another wave. So you'll see at the very beginning of all of these graphs that we were pretty low. Then we had a very big spike, of course, around the holidays, then kind of dipped back down, but we are now going back up in the last few weeks, but you'll see that's sort of leveling off a little bit. So we'll keep watch on that, and hopefully it will continue to go back down. So this is the all COVID cases. This is all facility and community cases. We have very few facility cases, so it reflects largely community cases. And this includes both the confirmed cases, which are the PCR test confirmed cases, and the probable cases, which are the ones that are positive cases. We treat them as positive cases. We do contact tracing and all that, but they're just not confirmed by a PCR test yet. And when they are, then they change over to a confirmed. They're not double counted. Next slide, please. This is our 14-day rolling average, and I was so interested as I was making these slides that I did include in a very small piece of the screen there the graph from the last time we presented, when Ed presented. You'll see really clearly that that new uptick, that new little surge that has really, we didn't really get all the way back down before we started going up again. So you'll see that that's pretty clear in this 14-day rolling average. Next slide, please. This is also community cases. This is age groups, and we've really been watching this. It's very interesting to see the trends. Over the last few weeks, we've seen an increase in younger age groups and a decrease in the older age group. However, for some reason this last week, there was a little bit more of an uptick in the 65 and up group, and the other age groups went down. So not sure. Hopefully that's just a brief blip, as many of those folks have been vaccinated. Next slide, please. So this is the hospitalizations per week. Again, this is for any Carroll County residents in any hospital, and you'll see again, just like the other graphs, there is a little bit of a lull, a little bit of a dip, and then we're back up to a little bit of a wave of some significant number of cases. The hospital is continuing to see a significant number of cases and of COVID cases, and we're just keeping an eye on things and hoping that goes back down soon. Next slide, please. This is the hospitalizations and deaths by age group. So, this has not changed significantly. We add to it, but the trends are still fairly similar. There are definitely some hospitalizations and, in those younger age groups, but still continue to be, largely the older adults. But this is really over time. This doesn't reflect a recent trend. This is really just over the time we've been counting. Next slide, please. And this is the COVID deaths by week of death. And these are the confirmed community cases are in blue, and the confirmed facility-related deaths are in that gold color. And you'll see that, again, we had a little bit of a dip, a little bit of a lull where we weren't seeing many deaths and a week without any deaths, and then it went back up again. So just continuing to see that those case rates have gone up, and then, of course, the hospitalizations and the deaths do tend to follow that by a few weeks. Next slide, please. So on to the good news. We are now in phase 3, so all Marylanders 16 and up are eligible to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. I just want to note here that only the Pfizer vaccine is currently approved for 16 and 17-year-olds, and we don't currently offer Pfizer, so we're trying to assist people in finding Pfizer vaccines through other means. Next slide, please. I took out a lot of the detail on these vaccination slides since we've, I think, completed most of our clinics with the school system and been able to vaccinate everyone at least once, I think, who wanted to be vaccinated, and are wrapping up with the second dose clinics. We have, the health department has administered over 20,000 first doses and over 12,000 second doses. And the number of Carroll County residents who have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine is over 65,000. So that's almost 40% of our total county population. So we're very excited about that, really seeing a lot of progress, and really excited to see things opening up and to see the vaccine be accessible to more folks. I do want to note here, I'm sure you're all aware of the issues with the J&J vaccine this week, that it's on pause while while they take a closer look at just a very few severe reactions, some blood clotting that may be related to the vaccine. It's 6 cases out of 6.8 million vaccines that have been administered. So it's very, very rare, but we are on pause with that. So we have not, we're not administering any J&J vaccine at the moment. We have, as you can see, about 400 doses in reserve, but we haven't administered any since that. You can see the clinic on the week of 2/28. So it's been several weeks since we administered any J&J vaccine, and we have not had any local reports confirmed of any issues with that vaccine. So right now we're in a little bit of a lull because we don't have that vaccine to use, and the state allocations did go down this past week. So although our hope is to make links available to folks every week to get vaccinated, to sign up to get vaccinated, we are not going to be able to offer links this week, and hoping to get back on that schedule next week. Next slide, please. So just a reminder that we have vaccine information, and when available, vaccination clinic links on our website. Folks can also call our call center, and there are also many other options across the state that you can access through that GoVax number or that website. Anybody have any questions? You're very welcome. I talk a lot faster than Ed, so I get done.
Well, we appreciate everything you all have done and worked with us and helped get all our employees, the ones that wanted it, the vaccines, and I really do appreciate it.
We are thrilled to partner with you, and I know the school system has been supportive of our clinics as well, and has been just a great communicator as we've all worked together to try to do our best for the community. So thank you for your participation in that as well. So if anybody has any questions, you're certainly welcome to ask them now, or of course follow up with us at any point.
Ms. Savigny.
Maggie, thank you for being here tonight and for going through all the slides. And I just wanted to ask a couple of follow-up questions about the J&J vaccine. So you said that you're expecting to resume those next week?
No, sorry. We are expecting to resume being able to offer open clinics next week. We had just started a couple of weeks ago putting clinic links on our website about a week before. So we're still registering those highest risk, highest priority folks, 65 and up, and then we'll release the links to the public since it's now open to everybody. Our clinics are open to everybody 18 and up since they're largely Moderna clinics. We did have some J&J vaccine in reserve, but we're obviously not using that at this point. And so some of our Moderna is being used to cover those clinics. And our state allocation did go down this week. So we're just not able to offer those clinics, open clinics to the public, open the links right now. We're actively having clinics. Our Moderna clinics are going on as scheduled, but we just aren't offering any other links for Moderna clinics at this point, but hope to again next week. But right now, the J&J is completely on hold.
And I can't say it strongly enough. Thank you so much for all of your coordination and all of your efforts with the school system. And Dr. Lockard, do you have some comments about, I know that we're having a large group of bus drivers vaccinated this week, and we've gotten through almost the entire group of folks who wanted the vaccine in the school system, correct?
Right. We have a handful of employees left for second round. This week, today, Wednesday, we had over 400 employees getting the second shot. We are aware that there were, significant number of, it's all of our staff, so significant number of bus drivers. And so as I looked at Mr. O'Neill, he and I were texting earlier. We're certainly going to be watching that carefully. It's not like when we have teachers or other staff where we can try to pinch hit and fill in our schools, which we've done a great job of. If folks have, some kind of response to a second shot, we'll ask everybody to pay close attention to the communication modalities which they normally would, our social media platforms, our email communication, et cetera, in case there's any issue with drivers tomorrow morning. I don't know, Mr. O'Neill, do you want to add anything else to that? No? Okay. We will do our best.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for the COVID?
So I will say to Maggie, thank you very much and appreciate your information this evening. We do have a couple other updates as mentioned. Mr. King is going to speak briefly about graduations. I know that our high schools have been busy communicating graduation information to their school communities, but Mr. King, we thought might be a good idea for you to elaborate just a little more here this evening.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, board members, Dr. Lockhart and Commissioner Weaver. The big news that I think you guys have been made aware of is our graduations will occur at Shipley Arena at the Ag Center. They're going to occur on Tuesday, June 1st. We have Liberty and FSK at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Wednesday, June 2nd is Winners Mill at 10 a.m. and Century at 2 p.m. And Thursday, June 3rd is Man Valley at 10, Westminster High School at 2, and South Carroll at 6 p.m. is the only evening graduation. And I also want to say a special thank you to Mr. Singer and specifically Andrea at the Health Department, who's worked very closely with Mr. Streaker and I and Ms. McCabe to really make sure that this was going to be a safe plan that they were comfortable with, that we also believe will make our graduates and their families happy. So each graduating class does get one rehearsal the week before, May 25th to May 28th, in the actual arena for graduation. So some of the safety things that will be in place is graduates will be seated 3 feet apart, actually 4 feet, counting their chairs. Guests will be permitted to sit in pods, but 3 feet away at least from other guests. Everyone will be masked. The garage doors will be open to maximize airflow, and that was really one of the huge selling points for us. It's really like an indoor-outdoor facility with the airflow that we're going to have is going to be tremendous, as you guys are all familiar with the facility, but yet it is undercover. And as we pondered just the nightmare of just a lightning strike, not even a storm, during a ceremony, that would just be so hard and could really ruin a special moment for the kids. So we're really excited to have this facility this year because we believe we're prepared for all situations. There are 4 outbuildings that we'll be able to use to stage the graduates and line them up. And they can be 100 or so per building, so they're still going to be socially distanced and safe in all those buildings, but yet undercover. So we're really excited about what the facility can provide to us. And also I have to say a special thank you. Heather at the Ag Center has just been tremendous, so easy to work with and so accommodating as we've tried to work on all these details. As well as we're going to partner with the CMC, so it will be live streamed for all the folks that can't attend. We've hired a professional sound person, because if you know the acoustics, they're not perfect, but we are very confident we're going to get this really good so everybody can hear everything that's said. Obviously, there will not be shaking hands on the stage. The students will be picking up their own diplomas as they cross the stage. And we expect a pretty normal graduation. We have not told the principals they have to shorten. We want to have the normal speeches, the staff speakers, the student speakers, whatever the tradition is at the individual high schools. The only thing we have not been able to include is the actual instrumental music groups because some of them still have not been able to practice as a whole, and they need about 8 to 9 feet between them to safely perform. We just could not make that happen. So for some of the schools, they will have a recording of their actual kids playing, the pomp and circumstance, et cetera. But we are going to have senior choral members from some of the schools, those who have agreed that they want to do it, they will sing live at the graduation. So that's really the big thing that we were not able to include, but everything else that we expect in a graduation that I think we've all seen will occur. So also a big thank you to the Sheriff's Department, who obviously we've spent some time with this evening. They will be helping us with the parking and the traffic flow. And we're pretty confident with the space they have there and the time of day for when these ceremonies are going to begin and end, that we will be able to get everyone out safely and in an orderly manner and not completely clog up the Westminster area. So we're excited about that as well. So with that very brief overview, are there questions? Are there things that you guys specifically would like to know about what the graduations will look like.
Dr. Dorsey.
I know you mentioned the audience will be sitting in pods. And I guess it all depends, on the size of the graduating class as well. But typically, about how many tickets would graduates receive for their families?
Yeah, that's a great question. It'll depend on the size of the school. We have a range of about 400 possible graduates at Westminster High School to about 200 at Francis Scott Key. And so one of the next steps the principals are going to partake in is they're going to ask the kids to commit. Because even before the pandemic, all seniors do not participate. And that always made me sad as a principal, but they have their own personal reasons, and some don't tend to participate. So we're going to ask them to opt in or opt out. And then once we have a count at every school, they will be able to start to work on their tickets. But it'll be about 2 to 4, depending on the size of the high school.
Ms. Pataglia.
Mr. King, I just wanted to say thank you because I know this has been a hot topic for many parents, given everything that happened last year, because last year was much different than this year. We know more now than we did then. And I think having it at the Ag Center, which is one of our I don't even know what the word to use regarding the Ag Center. It's so known in the county. And, I think it's nice to have it there. It's open, lots of room. But I definitely wanted to thank you and everyone involved in making sure that high school graduations are happening this year.
Well, you're welcome, and we're very excited. Again, we know we're not completely back to normal, but I think the class of 21 will feel pretty proud and excited about what they got to experience. And certainly, the extended family can be back at the house watching it live, and then they can, have their family celebration. So we're happy with it, and we'll continue to work on every little detail so that it goes off in an orderly and professional manner.
Any other questions, comments? I will ask you one thing. Parking, are you going to have like shuttles or?
No, the Sheriff's Department is going to work with Mr. Williams, and we believe we're going to be able to get everyone parked and into the facility on time. And we've already had one meeting, and Deputy Holland and Phil from the Sheriff's, just great folks over there, and we're going to all work together. And then each school is also going to have some of their staff that are sort of going to be greeters and a familiar face. So as the parents arrive, they'll be able to usher them in. And so I'm not going to say it's going to be perfect, but I'm very confident it's going to go well.
Thank you for all your time, because I know this hasn't been easy.
No problem. My pleasure.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Dr. Lockhart.
Thank you, Mr. King, and for all the work that's going into that. Mr. Duffy, an update on athletics.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Lockhart, Commissioner Weaver. We are finishing what I call our spring-fall season this week. We're concluding with our events on Saturday. In fact, I came here from the cross-country championships over at Carroll Community College. And then Saturday, we'll jump right into spring sports. Spring sports tryouts will begin on Saturday, April 17. We'll start with contests beginning on Friday, May 7th. At this point in time, we are prepared to conclude our events by Friday or Saturday, June 11th or June 12th. And I cannot thank enough the work of the athletic directors at all 7 high schools, as well as the coaches and the work they have put in to ensure that our students have had an opportunity to have what I believe very strongly, especially speaking to my colleagues around the state, that we've been able to implement the most complete and comprehensive athletic experience of any public school system in the state of Maryland this year. And it is it's not by accident, it's by their hard work and their diligence in ensuring our students had these opportunities. So I tip my hat to them because the work they have put in has made this happen.
Comments, questions? I tip my hat to you because I know this has not been easy, but I will tell you, I've had many phone calls, emails, Walmart visits, and said, thank you for having sports for our children. Yes, out in restaurants, yeah, they've stopped me, and I didn't get yelled at, so. But thank you so much, and the athletic directors, thank you.
How are spectators working out? I know everybody isn't happy, but it's working out pretty smoothly, isn't it?
I don't believe, since we've expanded to 750 in the stadia, I do not believe we have had to turn people away at this point. It's met our needs. The online or the mobile ticketing system, it has had its growing pains, but I think it's been successful. We're looking forward to expanding upon it next year. But as far as allowing people an opportunity to view the events in person, we are still continuing to work, and we still have 2 schools where we're having issues with the outdoor cameras. We're still working on it, but it's great that people do have the opportunity to see in person. And we are hopeful, I'm not gonna promise, but we're hopeful that by the time the spring events begin, those 2 schools will be up and running as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duffy. Mr. King, appreciate those updates.
Anything else with that? Okay. Oh, Ms. Savigny?
I was just going to say, before we move off of the topic of COVID-19 updates, could we also get, so I really appreciate the updates on graduations and athletics. Could we also get an update on like other programs like Drama Club and spring concerts and things like that, like those type of activities, that how they're going to be handled?
Sure. So what we've learned, again, as I mentioned a little bit with the graduation, some of the instrumental groups have not been able to all get together. So those directors are not comfortable trying to do a concert if they don't think it's going to meet their normal standard. There are going to be some chorus concerts. So it's really some different things are going on. So we opened the door, at all the schools, and there's different things that are going to occur at all the schools. I believe Westminster's still planning an outdoor choral concert. I know there's talk of a drama activity in person at Liberty. Many of the schools, though, had already completed their drama show, and it's going to be streamed here very soon. So there's no one answer, but all of the schools, all those programs were given the open door to participate in as much as they were comfortable doing. And of course, the numbers are completely different at certain schools than others as far as the amount of students that are participating. So, but we did give them the green light to do more, certainly as we finish the school year.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else? All right, now we're going to move on to recognitions. And Dr. Dorsey, we would like for you to start out with National Assistant Principals Week, please, with your 2.
Yes, National Assistant Principals Week, the week of April 5th through 9th, was National Assistant Principals Week. Our assistant principals work hard making sure that our schools run safely and effectively, that our students excel academically and socially, our teachers grow professionally, and our families and community members become involved and stay engaged in the education of our students. So we thank all of our assistant principals for their outstanding work and leadership. National Student Leadership Week. April 19th through 25th is National Student Leadership Week. This annual recognition highlights the important role that student leaders play in our schools and in the community. We are very fortunate to have a very strong and active student government association that gives students an opportunity to voice their opinions and develop their leadership skills. The board would like to thank Devanshi Mistry, our student representative, and Jamie Hahn and Emily Kim, co-presidents of the CCSGA, for their outstanding leadership and the excellent job they do representing our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Battaglia?
April 18th through 24th is also Administrative Professionals Week, and Wednesday, April 21st, is Administrative Professionals Day. Thanks to all our clericals, secretaries, and administrative assistants, both in our schools and at central office. These dedicated and caring employees are essential to the daily operations of our schools and offices. They assist our students, staff, and the public in countless ways and play a vital role in their schools and our school system.
And Ms. Savigny?
The Public School Volunteer Week. Public School Volunteer Week will be celebrated during the week of April 19th through the 23rd. Although we have not been able to have volunteers in our classrooms over the last year, we very much appreciate their continued efforts to support our schools, our students, and our staff throughout the pandemic. We are so fortunate to have thousands of dedicated volunteers in our school system, and we look forward to welcoming them back in our classroom in the fall. And we would also like to recognize 2 important celebrations coming up before our next board meeting in May. The first is the School Lunch Hero Day, will be observed on Friday, May 7th. This day is an opportunity for parents, students, and school staff to thank those who provide healthy meals each school day. We would like to give a special thanks to our food service workers this year for their exceptional creativity and effort to provide meals to children throughout Carroll County at school and at home.
Thank you. And Mr. Kyler?
National Teacher Appreciation Week is May 2 through 6, and Monday, May 3rd, is National Teacher Day. Our outstanding and dedicated teachers work hard every day to provide our students with high-quality instruction. This year in particular, they are showing their commitment by ensuring that our students continue to learn through hybrid instruction by delivering instruction in new ways during challenging times. Thanks to all of our teachers for all you do for our students.
Thank you. And I want to give everybody, all of our teachers, a special thank you for working so hard this year and working together and diligently and putting our students first. And we could not have done it without them. So a special thanks. At this time, board member activities. Dr. Dorsey, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you. On March 17th, I was invited to share a virtual presentation at Sykesville Middle School's Unity Day. It was a very engaging activity, and I certainly thank Principal Rep, Mrs. Whitlow, Mrs. Landry, the multicultural team, the staff, and student body for setting aside time to focus on unity and working together. On March 31st, I was able to watch sessions on navigating difficult waters together, and I'm sure many of you attended those sessions as well. So we thank the staff who were involved in planning and sharing those presentations. On April 7th, I attended the virtual Curriculum Council meeting, and during our meeting that day, we heard presentations on Schoology by Ms. Kelly Hammond and Sources of Strength from the team of Mr. Rodriguez, Ms. Mesta, Ms. Tobias, and Mr. Bevins. We give many thanks to Director McCausland for facilitating the meeting. On April 8th, 9th, and 10th, yes, those 3 days, I attended the National School Board Association's 2021 online experience, the Conference for Public Education Leaders. And there were certainly many highlights from the conference, including hearing powerful messages from keynote speakers. We heard from Tony and Grammy award-winning artist Leslie Odom Jr. He was in Hamilton and gave a very fine presentation. We also heard from award-winning journalist, author, and documentarian Soledad O'Brien. And we heard from a positive psychology researcher and author of The Happiness Advantage, Sean Aker. So again, each of these keynote speakers were wonderful, and they really shared helpful information, and each of them really acknowledged the importance of teachers and their gratitude for teachers for helping them to get to the point in their lives that they were able to certainly have many achievements. There were also breakout sessions that focused on governance work of board members, and I was able to get many positive takeaways from the conference. And I think we're all getting used to our virtual conferences because at the conclusion of the conference, all I had to do was shut my computer off and move to the next room. I didn't have to hop on a plane and travel home. So I think there are some advantages that we are seeing, even though we do miss getting together and having the collegiality together. And then finally, on April 12th, I participated in MABE's Ad Hoc Equity Committee meeting, and we're continuing our work on creating a workbook on equity to be used by board members in our state.
Thank you. Ms. Battaglia.
March 24th, I sat at home and watched the Teacher of the Year event that the Chamber of Commerce had put on, and it was a very nice event. It was very well done. And virtually, I mean, what can we do with virtually? But I mean, it was very well done as we had to be in that type of area. April 1st, Yes, April Fool's Day of all days. I received my COVID vaccine at my job. I received the J&J. So I did a little Facebook Live post regarding it. The Carroll County Times actually caught on to it and did a little highlight in the paper. And it was just a nice little PSA of, hey, you know, I just got mine, didn't get it before anybody else. And, you know, if you choose to do it, make sure you contact the appropriate outlets to get the vaccine that you are looking to do. So I think, you know, it was just nice, hey, you know, everybody do what you feel is right. Of course, we all celebrated Easter on April 4th. And Easter is a good day, you know, just kind of remember that it's about rebirth and renewal, that every day is a new day and it's a new opportunity. You can learn something new, do something new, so always take advantage of that. On April 11th, a wonderful day in my life, my oldest turned 16 years old, so if you see more gray hair, you know why, she's driving. And on April 22nd, that is coming up, is Earth Day, so I just ask everyone to just do something good for Earth Day, whether it's cleaning up a garden, planting a tree, planting a plant. As my daughter, you know, don't run the water when you're brushing your teeth. Turn the light off when you're not in a room. So just something small can always make a big impact. And I know we always, you know, yes, we do thank our teachers and staff and everyone who has made everything happen, but I want to take a moment and thank our parents. Because without the parents making sure that their kids got up, got online, having to sacrifice not working, none of this would have worked. We needed parents to help out a lot. And I just wanted to take a moment and thank them for all the sacrifice that they have done as well. Many families have, and they're starting to get back to normal now, so I just wanted to take that time.
Thank you. Ms. Savigny.
Well, during this really busy budget season for the county, I know we were hoping to meet with the commissioners, you know, on our typical quarterly schedule and, you know, have the joint meeting to talk about budget issues. And it doesn't look like we're going to be afforded that opportunity this go around. So in lieu of doing my board correspondence, I just wanted to kind of take this time to make a couple of comments about education funding. And one of the things that I wanted to point out was at the end of the second quarter, the state of Maryland released a report that showed how many educators were teaching students in person around the state. And in Carroll County, we had 82% of our educators in the classroom at least 2 days a week on behalf of our students and the community. The next closest county after us was at 27%. And then the next closest after that was at 2%. Right, so I just think about that for a moment. So Carroll County was at 82%, next closest 27, and then after that was 2% or less through all the other jurisdictions. So no other county in the state of Maryland was anywhere close to what we were achieving in Carroll County. And from where I stand and where I think the rest of this board stands, we have nothing but outstanding things to say about our staff and our educators in CCPS. When we asked our teachers and staff to return to the buildings because our students and our families and our community desperately needed them, they showed up. They truly showed up and did their jobs for the benefit of our students, and we can't thank them enough for that. And I think we need to recognize that for our educators and our staff through pay raises. And one of the biggest strengths of this county is the school system. CCPS is the marketing and economic engine that drives the type of smart growth that we need in this community. And during our public comments over the last couple of months, you heard over and over and over again, time and again, from parents who are coming in and said they moved to Carroll County because of the schools. And you know, when families look at investing in a home, one of the first things they look at is how good is the school system, right? And that's where Carroll County and our public school system really shines. If we are able to maintain our position as the #1 school system in the state, it makes it easier for families to choose to move here. And I think we're seeing that. So I would urge the commissioners to continue to make education funding a priority in 2021. And this BOE, we worked very closely with them, with the commissioners, and graciously accepted MOE last year when we all needed to come together and work together in a crisis and in the face of uncertainty. And I think that we showed great leadership in the county in that regard. So we had a plan and a vision as a school system that we worked really hard with the commissioners over the last several years to try to execute. And I just want to make sure that we keep a priority focus on education funding, because we don't want to let the state of the public schools start to deteriorate, because that would have an adverse impact on the projected revenues for the county. The school system isn't a long-term cost burden on the county. We're the growth engine that drives top-line revenue increases for the county, and I hope that everyone keeps that in mind. So I urge the rest of this board to ask our commissioners to do right by our educators and our community and fully fund our education request for 2021. We don't think our request is unreasonable. We think it's very reasonable, and we're simply asking that we honor the commitments and the plans that we worked so hard together over the last several years to put in place. So thank you for allowing me to make that statement.
Thank you, Ms. Savigny. Mr. Kyler.
On March 15th, I did a MABE Legislative Committee event, and 2 hours virtual. And on March 24th, I watched the Chamber of Commerce Outstanding Teacher Awards, and I congratulate everybody mentioned that evening. But again, it's a great testament to all the teachers in Carroll County. As Ms. Savigny's just said, they stepped up and did their job. And I'll go slightly a step further. If we had a joint meeting, I'd like to say the $2.5 million that we've asked for is about 1% to all the staff. So if we don't get that, that's 1% out of their pockets. I visited the Carroll County Career and Tech construction site, got to walk the site, and they're moving on. And while I was there, I got to go into school and talk to some of the staff and educators there, and that's always great to visit that building. It's been, and I know all of you feel the same way, and it's minor in the grand scheme of things on the kids being taught, but I miss getting to go into the schools. And so I don't know if I bent the rules a little bit, but I did the construction site and then went in the front door. But I really appreciated that, and they're doing a great job there, as they are in all the schools. April 5th, did another MABE Legislative Committee meeting. April 6th, I spoke at a women's event. I went there to discuss Carroll County Public Schools. And it was actually a tag team event with Mrs. Badaglia. I had a page of notes on things I thought, what do they want to hear? Well, fortunately or unfortunately, they spoke some before, some about us, some about the state in general and protesting and how they felt about things. And we ended up gearing everything we said. She probably did like I threw away my notes, and we talked about what Carroll County Public School System does. And it's so amazing. People don't know. We assume everybody knows. We assume they read the Carroll County Times and see it, but they don't. And we got a lot of thank yous afterwards. People were like, well, I didn't know they did that. I didn't know they were doing that this year. And then I was fortunate enough to go to an event up in Cecil County 2 days later, and I saw 2 or 3 of there was a Harford County person there and a Baltimore County person there who were both totally upset with all the schools. And the one lady actually had her daughter there, and they came up and said, man, we were so glad we were there and got to hear about what the schools do. All we hear is rumors. So, again, it's if you get an opportunity, it's great to talk to some of these groups. Then on April 9th, I toured the Carroll County Veterans Independent Projects facility and talked to them about, again, everything they do, but also partnerships that could happen with Carroll County Public Schools, which Dr. Lockhart and staff are working on doing a lot with them. And it's a great facility, and they even talked about some non-veteran stuff, like how could they help students that don't graduate? How could they do other things? So they're all talking to them a bunch about getting together and doing a lot of things. tomorrow I'm invited to talk to a business group about schools, and again, I think it'll be the same kind of thing. I think you can't assume they know what's going on in the schools, and it's surprising. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Devanshi?
Hello, everyone. Yesterday was my first day of in-person school. It was a decision that me and my family made together, and it was really exciting to see all the teachers, peers, friends face-to-face. And everything went well overall regarding distancing, mitigation strategies, so a big shout out to Liberty High School for that. And I'm really looking forward to being in class in person now. This Monday, I attended the CCSJ Executive Board meeting to plan for our May GA, and afterwards met with the recently elected Shrub-elect Emily Tedeschi. It's crazy to imagine that we're in fourth quarter already in the highly unusual school year. But just my words of encouragement to the students would be to finish strong, hang in there, and just keep on taking care of yourselves, both physically and mentally. Thank you.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to actually be invited to a school. And I asked Dr. Lockhart. Miss Patty Burns invited me to go to Friendship Valley because she had one of her interpreters from Pakistan read a book in her native language and then came back and then read it in our English. And it was very interesting to see how the students reacted. And they were young, they were first graders. And their questions were very informative. They asked her some really good questions. So it was so nice to go out and visit a class. I will say that, because we haven't been able to do that. And you all know in the past, I had been invited at least once a week before COVID hit. Along with Ms. Savigny and Mr. Kyler, our educators, in fact, all of our employees have been in the forefront all year long. Not asking questions and going forward and really working hard. I'm so proud of all of them. I am asking the commissioners to reconsider putting back the $2.5 million that they took out of the budget yesterday. And as I said, that Mr. Kyler said 1%. And also, as president of the Board of Education, I want to ask the Carroll County Commissioners to resume our quarterly meetings. They were beneficial for everyone, for both sides. And I'm asking them to, if we could reconvene our quarterly meetings. And please don't forget that Carroll County Public School System is their best advertisement in Carroll County. Thank you. Dr. Lockhart, it's your turn for your report. Oh, what? Oh, okay. Hi, Mr. Weaver.
Sorry I was late tonight, but I had the opportunity this afternoon to actually judge a public speaking contest with a lot of our high school kids participating here locally. And I just want to say Carroll County has fantastic students out here, and they really presented themselves well. I was really impressed with their abilities and answering the questions. And I want to just go one step further on this. I hear what you're saying on the budget here. You're right in what you're asking for. No problem. We are in a situation, to be totally honest with you. We have fire, police, and education, three areas, and it's growing, and we need money in order to do it. With that, it's no secret we're going to be at a deficit for years coming. We're going to have to reinstate a tax rate that will support the county if we're going to keep our public schools and our police department and our new public safety and fire and EMS service out there. This is going to be a major shock across the board, because it's not going to be small in order to support where Carroll County has grown to and where it's growing. So be aware of that. Yes, yesterday was a tough one, and we're not finished yet. So hopefully we can go back tomorrow and I'm going to deal with some. However, I want to just digress a minute. yesterday I forgot my badge and couldn't get in the office, and I had to go knock on the mailroom window to get in. And we had a new employee about 2 weeks here in Carroll County. And she questioned me. I think she almost frisked me to make sure who I was, I could get in, and questioned me about everything. And I got talking to her a little bit. She moved here from Charles County, and she moved here for her kids, for the school system. Brand new lives outside of Westminster. She is thrilled with her daughter's placement, her son's placement, where they are. She just couldn't believe the difference in the school system and what they're experiencing. So everything you guys are saying is exactly on target. I agree with you on much of this, and I know Rothstein probably threw me under the bus earlier, but tomorrow is probably the conclusion of our budget, but we'll see where we go for this. And I understand what you need, and if not this year, we will be looking at this, but it's going to be an interesting ride over the next year. Let me tell you, and it's going to hit us, and the citizens of Carroll County, I think, are going to have to start paying for the services that everybody's demanding, and just be aware of it. And there's no secrets out there. Our budget is 16 million deficit in 27 projected, and it's a wall out there we're going to fall off of if we're not careful. So be aware. And Donna, I heard exactly what you said on this, Kenny and Marcia. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Just
Thank
remember,
you.
there's no place like home. That's what Dorothy said.
Commissioner Weaver, she let you in?
It took some fast talking, but she finally let me in. She realized I matched the picture on the wall, and she would let me in then.
All right, thank you. Dr. Lockhart.
Great. Well, I get to share some more good news about the work that's happening in our system with students and staff. So first, I want to start with congratulating Glenn Messier, principal of Mechanicsville Elementary School, for being chosen as the Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals National Distinguished Principal of the Year. He was selected based on his dedication and exemplary leadership skills and is the first principal from Carroll County to earn this recognition. Glenn is a champion of equity and culturally responsive thinking. He's led his staff in developing understanding of responsive practices, including a reconfiguration of the gifted and talented process at Mechanicsville. He serves his entire school community, staff, students, parents by being present as an active listener, responsive to concerns and ideas, and through his compassion and encouragement. He was recently certified as a national principal mentor and is engaged in supporting aspiring leaders through NAESP, that's the National Association of Elementary School Principals, Aspiring Leadership Academy. So congratulations to Glenn. I got to join a couple other staff members in sort of surprising him with this award just last week. Congratulations also go to Martin Tierney, principal of Runnymede Elementary School, who has been selected to receive the 2021 Maryland Music Educators Association Outstanding Administrator Award. This award recognizes non-arts administrators who are music advocates and supporters working with their school's music teams to build great music programs for their schools and communities. Martin is a constant presence at school, county, regional, and community music events, helps out on concert days, and even participated in the second grade musical, much to the delight of students, staff, and parents. I'd like to recognize Sarah Gallagher from Shiloh Middle and Sherry Scott from Northwest Middle School, who are semifinalists for the Maryland School Counselor of the Year Award presented by the Maryland School Counselor Association. Sarah has brought Mind-Up curriculum materials to 6th grade and is the co-founder and co-advisor of the Shiloh Yoga Club. She's a member of a variety of school committees and is the School Improvement Team chairperson. Most recently, she served as an adult supervisor in the Sources of Strength program. Sherry has made significant contributions to the counseling program, both at Northwest and at the county level. She's contributed to countywide professional development on the topic of trauma-informed practices and is creative in her program development and delivery. We want to also congratulate the 144 students from Carroll County Public Schools selected as Carson Scholars for 2021. This includes 38 first-time scholars and 106 recognized scholars. First-time scholars who excel academically and selflessly give of themselves, their time, and their talents to others and receive a $1,000 college scholarship award and the honor of being named a Carson Scholar. After winning the scholarship, a student may apply to renew their Carson Scholar status. A special thanks goes to Cole Roofing and the Kahlert Foundation for supporting our Carson Scholars program through their generous funding of $1,000 scholarships to the students. We'd like to congratulate Diana Flores, a senior at Winters Mill High School, for earning a Dorsey Scholarship from McDaniel College. This scholarship provides full tuition, room, and board for all 4 years at McDaniel and is valued at more than $200,000. This scholarship is the highest academic honor at McDaniel College. It honors and celebrates outstanding and high-achieving students who will become future academic leaders and role models at McDaniel. Students do not apply for the award but are chosen from the honors applicant pool. Diana is one of 3 incoming freshmen from the class of 2025 awarded a Dorsey Scholarship. So congratulations, Diana. Quite an award and honor. I was also, as I believe Ms. Battaglia mentioned earlier, at the Outstanding Teacher Awards on March 24th. The Carroll County Chamber of Commerce recognized 728 of our teachers in the 32nd Annual Outstanding Teacher Awards program. This is a great recognition for our dedicated teachers, and I want to thank Ms. Gaddis, Ms. Bowers, and all the staff who helped put this together. And I want to congratulate those who were selected as finalists. First is Jennifer Borsick, an 8th grade U.S. history teacher at Northwest Middle School. Megan Dash, the best program science teacher at East Middle School. Donella Dill, English teacher, Century High School. Steve Findyson, 11th and 12th grade social studies teacher at Manchester Valley High School. Holly Furman, media specialist at Shiloh Middle. Timothy Litzow, 2nd and 5th grade STEM teacher at Linton Springs Elementary School. Sally Powell, an ESOL resource teacher. And Carrie Stitcher, teacher at Spring Garden Elementary School. The Carroll County Teacher of the Year will be chosen from among these 8 outstanding teachers. That candidate, who will be named at our May board meeting, so coming up, will be Carroll County's representative for the Maryland Teacher of the Year program. Each of the 8 finalists receive a $300 check from the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce also awarded 3 scholarships in the amount of $300 to assist teachers in their continuing education. Congratulations to Melissa Fry, math teacher, Century High School, Lexi Roten, 8th grade math teacher at Sykesville Middle, and Rebecca Romero, 5th grade STEM and Humanities teacher at Westminster Elementary School. In addition, the Lifetime Achievement Award was presented to Tom Hill, Director of Middle Schools. As you're aware, Tom's retiring after dedicating 40 years of his life to Carroll County Public Schools. We congratulate Tom for receiving this much This day will be a 2-hour and 45-minute early dismissal. Again, that's June 15th. And we will be, of course, pushing all this information out en masse starting tomorrow to our communities. The last day for teachers will be Wednesday, June 16th. Again, we'll be sending communication to all families and employees, notifying them of this change to the calendar. And I hope there's no weather that disrupts that.
Right. Ms.
There
Battaglia.
you have it.
I was going to say, I I don't think anybody's going to be protesting that whatsoever. They're going to be ready for this year to be done. Moving forward and next year.
All right, moving.
Mr. Baker. Dr. Lambert, I did have a question about the portable relocations, but would that be better served under the discussion under the order of beds?
Well, it depends on what the question is. If it's about the Elmer Wolf relocation, we can talk about it then. If it's just moving portables in general, we can talk about that now.
I guess I was trying to understand what is the need for the moving, because going from Piney Ridge, Piney is at 96% capacity right now, or at least a year ago, and Elmer Wolf is only at 78% or something like that. So just trying to understand what the need and the rationale is for doing that movement.
Sure. Elmer Wolf is one of our Title I, right? If you want to go to the podium, Elmer Wolf is one of our Title I schools, and so even if you look at the utilization, you say, well, it's not as high as Piney or another school. There are a lot of different programs specific to Title I that are tucked away in the building, and so Principal Belsky has been trying to work with a lot of us on staff for a couple of years now to find the space she needs to successfully run those programs and move kids through school. So we've tried a number of things, and when I say we, I mean school construction, facilities, Steve Hornick, Director of Elementary School, Sydney. Folks have been up there, tried a number of different arrangements, rearranging, and ultimately after a couple of years decided that if Piney's not needing this portable, then there is a use for it there that makes sense. So yeah, I don't know if you want to add anything or.
And also say I can vouch for Ms. Belsky, because that is one of my ambassador schools, and she has asked me several times, what do you think? Do you think I'll be able to get a portable? Because yes, it is specific to her Title I school, and they're outside their buildings. Yes, they definitely need it.
One of the things about being a Title I school is the staffing, as Mr. O'Neill and Ms. Herbert spoke about. So that staff is not only used to conduct interventions with students, but those staff members are also used to lower class sizes. And as you can imagine, every time you lower a class size or you bring in someone to conduct interventions, it takes more space away from the rest of the building. And so our Title I schools tend to have bigger staffs. And so
There's a Judy Center program there, some other tutoring and interventions. I know that, we've tried to put teachers in modes where they can be on a cart, or Tracy or Principal Belsky and Mr. Wernig have tried to use other spaces, and all of that's already been done. And there was a spike in enrollment at 1 or 2 grade levels, and we even, redirected a little bit of staffing. This is the culmination of a few years of looking at this, and ultimately everybody determining this is the best solution for up there.
Okay. And then alternative for the other set of the one going from Mechanicsville to Freedom. The portables at Mechanicsville, don't they house the school for the blind?
They're both from Piney, aren't they, Ray? Does the,
Oh, I'm sorry, the school construction report says that one of the double portables is going from Mechanicsville to Freedom.
At Mechanicsville, we store a lot of materials that we use for creating braille text, those kinds of things, but Principal Messier has found space inside the building, so we'll be able to relocate those materials inside the building, so we won't need that portable there.
Anything else? All right. And, oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I was going to ask
Okay.
about the Mechanicsville
Okay.
portable as well, but now my question is Freedom Elementary. I mean, they already have at least one portable there, right? So is it just one that they currently have, and this will be a second, or?
I believe that's correct, yes. What was is the question about the need or the?
No, not about the need, just the number of portables
Yeah.
now that this will make on the Freedom Elementary campus.
Yeah, there's either a double or a quad there right now.
Yeah, I think there was a quad
It's a
there
quad.
earlier.
There's a
Yeah.
quad.
and I believe these are both doubles, is that true, Ray? Right, so this would be a double in addition to the quad.
Mhm. So will this one be situated near where the other one is, or is there another location for that?
It'll be in the general vicinity, but because of code changes over the last few years, it's going to have to be located some distance away from where the old one was that we removed some years ago. So it's just a result of code changes we
Okay.
have to accommodate.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, that will end the construction report. Now we will move on to the COVID-19 physical report. Dr. Lockhart.
Okay, this is our monthly fiscal impact report of costs related directly to the pandemic. There he is. Mr. Hartlove is here if you have any questions. We continue to bring updated information back to the board as it relates to the COVID-19 expenditures.
I really don't have a question about this, but I do have a question about, as we go to July 1st and we get the new monies for recovery, will we have a handout like this to figure out where the money's going so that we can be transparent about that?
Yeah, in fact, we're getting ready because
I was just
we know that additional funding is coming. We don't have it. We don't even have the parameters around it yet.
Right.
So our team is meeting and trying to get as much information as we can so that we can do a very similar process, bring to the board what that stipulates. Yes.
I think that would be great because I think everybody wants to see where, it's a lot of money and they want to see,
And it'll likely, like this, there'll be parameters around it, what you can, what you can't.
and that's what people need to
What you
see.
can, right, what you can apply for and how you have to get it approved, and there'll be a lot of stipulation around how you can utilize it.
And that's what, I think that's a problem with our budget.
Yes.
People do not understand that how things are allocated, and certain monies have to go to special areas or needs. So
Right.
I just think that would be very transparent for
That's a gr-
parents, public.
Yes, that's a great point, President Herbert, because I think sometimes people go, oh my golly, X millions of dollars, that's fantastic, but it's not recurring, so that creates, issues. And then it also, like I said, comes with a lot of, you can only use it for this or that or certain things. It must be approved and you demonstrate that you are using it. So it's not like it's just, hey, what do we want to do with the funds that we're given? So
I was just sitting here and I saw this and I thought, oh, that would be a great idea for everyone to see. So, Ms. Battaglia.
Has there been any conversation regarding the meals that are going to be continuing? Are they going to continue throughout the summer and into next year? I know I've been hearing some chatter from many, regarding the food insecurities that many in our community are still experiencing.
Well, we're
So-
absolutely continuing, and I know when Mr. Anderson speaks about the summer learning and recovery, we're going to be providing breakfast and lunch, I believe, to everybody in attendance. But we will continue with the sites and all the other work that's been going on as well.
And is that going to be continuing into next year as well?
Yeah, I believe
Into
so.
the fall and?
Yep.
Yeah, I will talk about that once we get into the recovery report. But at this time, what we know is that we'll have it available this summer, through the summer.
Mr. Kyler.
So, back to this report. So this is through the end of March. Do you see much significant change between now and year end, or is most of this pretty caught up to what it's going to be?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Chris to come to the podium because I know there's some things that will catch up at some point.
Yes, we're as this report actually spans multiple fiscal years. It started at the end of last year. It's going to continue through this year. So as we have items, they will be included on the report. But the big spending, to answer your question, I think a lot of it we've kind of plateaued here, and I think the next big item is going to be this summer with the recovery beginning. That's going to be huge. We'll continue to do this each month. I'm assuming that we're going to have some small changes each month, like we have the last few. But the last item I think we really that was a large investment for us were the purifiers, and I don't see anything like that coming over the next couple of months.
And speaking of those, we didn't quite have every classroom, I think, initially. Do we have them all now? Are there some back-ordered, or have they come?
We have, to my knowledge, and I sent a few emails out to a few of the principals who early had questions. I believe we have all instructional spaces covered. So traditional classrooms is some of those converted spaces that became classrooms, like we were discussing earlier with Elmer Wolf, and portables. And what we're in the process of bringing in, I guess, this week and maybe into next week, are some additional units for maybe not traditional classroom instructional spaces, but office suite, what do you call them, Ray? The bullpens, the bigger areas of the office where people may gather and wait, and conference spaces, things like that. So there'll be a second, not as big as the first one, but a second set of deliveries going out either right now or by early next week.
Thanks.
Ms. Savigny.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Hartlove and Dr. Lockard, just following on your transparency thoughts, Ms. Herbert, has this report been shared with the commissioners? Because I think there definitely is some confusion in the community and with the commissioners as well about the funds that we've been getting and how they're being spent. It's not, we don't get to decide necessarily exactly how we want to spend this money. It's earmarked for very specific purposes and uses, and I think this is a great detailed report showing how we've been able to use those funds. I just want to make sure that the commissioners have seen this.
I will say one thing. Dr. Lockard has gone above and beyond, talking to them, giving them all the pertinent information and the numbers, and he's done it in several ways, and I didn't want to speak for him, but I know he has gone over and given them numbers and numbers and numbers. And we've actually, he has condensed some of it, but he's got a full version also that they've been able to have their hands on. So, Dr. Lockard, I didn't want to step on you, but I just wanted to say, yes, you have done many, many, many things.
No, I appreciate that. I know that in meeting with the commissioners, I've referenced this information. I believe I noted it in the presentation that we did publicly at the agency
I call it the
hearing.
Begathon.
Right, and so I think we've been very clear that this is these one-time funds that we're receiving through things like ESSER, et cetera, these grants, that we are accounting for them every single month publicly, and they're listed right on our website for folks to see.
And just to kind of piggyback on that, when we first started doing this report, the pandemic was new, and we were trying to kind of capture the different types of spending that we were doing. We had never, bought the types of things that we're buying now. And we really weren't knowledgeable that that we were going to have all these federal dollars. So we were also capturing it because we were trying to figure out how we're going to pay for all of this. And then the grants came through, and I don't want anyone to think that this is the only accountability. Federal dollars are incredibly, there's a lot, as Dr. Lockhart was saying, there's a lot of accountability tied to these dollars. We do these are things that we've been doing forever, dealing with federal grants, dollars that pass through the state. These dollars are no different than that. There's a lot of accountability. Even if we had a desire to do something that was irresponsible, there's no way the feds and the state would let us do that. So, there is a lot of accountability with these dollars. So, but it kind of merged because we started this report when we were predominantly our local funds. Now it kind of looks like we have these dollars are just flowing in with no other accountability, and that's just not the case. It just happens to be that the feds have come through in a big way. They have really come through in a big way for us, and a lot of it's one time, but there's a lot of accountability with it as well.
President, I'm sorry.
I just want to say one thing. I thank you, Mr. Hartloff, for that, because that is one of the misconceptions that the public has, that looks like we've got all this money. But when you get a grant, it is specifically for one area. It may be special ed, it may be ESOL, it may be something for mathematics, but there is a specific area that we have to spend that money on. And I just don't know how else to explain it to the public. But it looks like we've got all this money, but it is specified to go to a certain area, and that's the only thing we can spend it on. And you have a time frame to spend that money also on a lot of these grants. So, it's not something that we are just throwing money away. It is specified. So I just want everyone to know that, to explain to the community that's how a lot of this federal money coming in is coming in, and it has to be declared in that area. Mr. O'Neill?
I was just going to add real quickly, with your permission. I want to give some credit to Chris and his team, because for your sake and the public and anyone else, it's more than just that. They also work to maximize as much money as possible in the best possible way. So Chris and his team, Michelle Caples especially, they're looking for grants, even if they're small and just for one thing, and they're funneling those to program people, Cindy or Jason, saying, could we use this? Should we apply for this? And also, all year long, Chris has been jogging upstairs to me, and Steve or Dr. Lockhart saying, originally when things started, I'm just using a hypothetical example, but we know we had to buy all of this PPE, and so we thought we would use this source of funding, which is legitimate. But now, in great partnership with the county and emergency operations as an example, there's some money now available through FEMA for reimbursement for that type of thing. We'd like to attribute that purchase to that funding, which is appropriate, and then that allows us to have more resource for students in academic recovery. So they've been doing that. That's the work they do each and every day, nonstop, and all of that happens all of the time as well, and that's important to note.
Dr. Dorsey.
Well, I put it down because,
Okay.
again, we've been speaking to it, but again, these are the restricted funds, and certainly there's a lot of accountability attached with it, as you're saying, so, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on fiscal report? All right, Dr. Lockhart, now we can move on to academic recovery, compensatory, and extended school year services update.
Well, we told you at the March meeting that there was a ton of work happening behind the scenes, and there continues to be a ton of work. I'm going to, I guess at this point, ask Mr. Anderson and his team to please provide an update on where we are. There's a lot of moving parts here, but we're providing a lot of detail at this point for the board, and there'll be more to come as well.
Good evening, board members and Commissioner Weaver. The report that you have in front of you is basically dated April 8th. It's the next iteration of our planning report, and I anticipate and plan to bring back the May iteration when we return next month to give you additional details. I want to first start off by thanking Cindy McCabe and our school team, John O'Neill and our operations team, and obviously the individuals that are in the back of the room, along with those that report to these individuals, for the outstanding service and cumulative effort in putting this plan together. We are, as a school system, I feel like we're in a very good place. We are very much ahead of the game, if you will. You can see on page 1 there, that is our executive team that has met a number of times. A big thanks to our Mike Hardesty and his team. A big thanks to Karen Sarno and Food Services. Jen Seichel and our technical services team. It has been outstanding. Obviously, I can answer any questions that you have this evening, but one of the pieces that I wanted to put in there on page number 2 and page number 3 is a project management timeline to give you some additional insight on what has happened and what we are planning to happen. That is tentative. It will continue to be updated, but it gives you some additional insight into the work that we are doing, what we're planning to do. And as you know, at this scale, we haven't done something like this in a very long time. So this is all very new to all of us, but I will say we have, I think we've done this very well so far, and we anticipate having this plan to emulate as we move into the future. So it's a great illustration of a collaborative effort across our school system.
All right. Ms. Savigny.
Of course, I have a lot of questions, right?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
That's why she's first. She probably will cover everybody else's.
Right. And I really appreciate receiving this report on a monthly basis, and I'm looking forward to seeing the changes as this evolves. And I understand you're trying to triangulate on an optimal answer to this with a lot of moving parts, right? And I guess the one thing that I want to try to understand from the big picture perspective is, if you had no monetary constraints and no resource constraints, how many students do you estimate truly needing the summer recovery plan?
Yeah, so what we did when we were talking about triangulation, we triangulated the data, and what we did is we obviously looked at our quarter performance data, right, grades, which has been very much part of our conversation topic. We've looked at that closely because in many cases that indicates where our students are, and when we get to the high school level, who's going to need credit recovery, right, to make sure that we can get our students across the finish line. We don't have any MCAT data, so we're relying heavily on our local assessments. Some of those being common, obviously, at the elementary level, and we've, as was mentioned earlier, we're working hard to implement, and we will be implementing in the years to come, common assessments at the middle and high school level.
And then finally, we're relying heavily on our school improvement teams and our principals and our school teams to identify the students that they have concern about. And so what we've done an exceptional job with that data, because what we're doing is, as of Friday, all schools within our technical services will be identifying students within our student information system, where an automatic email will be sent out to families indicating that their child is being recommended to attend. You asked specifically, how many students are we talking about? Well, if you triangulate that data and you look at the measures, essentially what you're looking at is students that aren't meeting enroll grade level standards, right, or course standards. It can be anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 students. What we do know is we have around 2,000 plus students that potentially could receive compensatory services out of about 3,200 students receiving specialized instruction. So right there, we anticipate over the next year and a half needing to provide compensatory services to 2,000 plus special education students. In addition to that, what we also know is that historically we have about 20 to 25% of our students, maybe 30% of our students, historically that haven't met enrolled grade level standards when it comes to high stakes assessment across the state, right? Our proficiency levels are where they are, but then we can start running linear relationships. We as a school system have some of the strongest linear relationships between those high stakes assessments and local assessments, which we feel very then comfortable looking at our local assessments. We're anticipating inviting anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000. What we get back, we don't know yet, but one of the things, again, I'll commend our school directors as well as our technical services team. We will not only be indicating and identifying the number of students that have been invited, which I'll be able to provide you probably next week if you wanted it, but most importantly, we'll be able to see how many students are taking advantage of the opportunity that's presented to them as well. The good news is if students aren't able to partake in the summer recovery sessions, we will continue to provide extended learning opportunities for students as well through the fall and spring semester. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we will be running a summer program again next summer.
Okay. And so the 2,000 students that we're going to be giving compensatory services to, are they included in the 4,000 to 6,000, or is that 2,000 on top of the 4,000 to
No,
6,000?
they are included
They're
into
in
that
the
number
4,000
as
to
well.
6,000.
And one of the things I want to commend Nick and Wayne, who are sitting in the back right now, and the work that they've done, which next month you'll have the staffing plan. We are hoping and that we can move forward and evolve by providing more 11-month positions, which then obviously intuitively will be available to us at all times to support those students in services in the future.
And so have we had good response from the teachers? So
Yeah, so I can't get into the actual, well, I can get into some numbers. I can tell you right now for the elementary and middle school, we have, because of the premium salary as it relates to House Bill 1372 that we're required to offer, and thank you guys for your support with all of that, we do have a pretty strong interest. We have a large number of staff, teachers as well as instructional assistants that are keen to take advantage of the opportunity. But it goes back to the conversation that Ms. Herbert brought up last month is let's look at our ratios. We want to keep those more intimate. We want to keep them small. If we have to look at the number of students that we're going to get as well, and then obviously the number of staff who express their interest and commitment to be a part of this, and then we'll be able to give you a better ratio of what it would look like over the summer.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously 14 to 1, I mean, you have to draw a line in the sand somewhere, right? Trying to figure out how to do all this planning, but 14 to 1 is not an optimal
Not by any
ratio
means.
by
In
any
fact,
stretch.
That's correct. And House Bill 1372 actually indicates and illustrates that as we get into tutoring extended learning opportunities next year, the ratio needs to be around 4 to 1. And I believe Ms. Herbert spoke about 3 to 1 in the past where we've done interventions. And that's what the literature says.
Right.
3 days a week, 3 to 1, 30 minutes a day. So we're hoping for extended learning opportunities about a 4 to 1 ratio for about an hour a day. But again, that's fall. We're trying to get through this summer right now.
Anybody else
some
have
other
any
people go.
questions?
Well, yeah, kind of along with her numbers there, and I had sent some questions, and you emailed back, and I still have questions about questions, but I'm learning. How much of this, what percentage of this will be like credit recovery, where some kids actually get credit for this summer class versus how much is just extra help to try to get you up to the level you ought to be?
It's a great question. So it is differentiated at each level, and I'll let Ms. McCausland talk specifically about it because I know she was doing some work with high school principals today as well.
Sure. So it does look different at each level. Elementary school, obviously, they don't need grade or credit recovery. So it will be focusing on, that growth of the grade level standards and the 10 core standards, power standards that the math and ELA are identifying. At the middle level, traditionally in the past, we always allowed students to come in the summertime and do grade recovery at the middle level. And although House Bill 1372 focuses on math and ELA, we also wanted to provide students with the opportunity to recover grades in social studies and science as well, because that's what we've done in the past. So at the middle level, it'll be those 4 core content areas where kids will be able to come in and recover grades. And then at the high school level, it's all about credit recovery and making sure that students are able to recover those credits necessary to meet graduation requirements and graduate on time.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Kyler, also, Ms. McCausland, if you don't mind speaking, maybe turning it over to your team. We have 2 content experts. I know Ms. Savigny, you had also mentioned about the idea of our evaluation of the efficacy of the program over the summer, and one of the requirements also aligned to the bill is that we have a pre and post evaluation. And so Ms. McCausland asked a couple folks, this gets to your point also, Mr. Kyler, what elementary looks like in particular, or what middle school looks like. And I know, Angie, you want to talk a little bit about math, for example.
Sure. So we have Don Hicks, who is supervisor of elementary mathematics, on the line, as well as Mary Swack, who is the secondary content supervisor for mathematics. So Don, if you'd like to start to talk about pre-post assessment and then what it's going to look like at the elementary level, please.
Sure. Well, first off, I want to thank the math resource team for doing all the work they've done so far to really kind of help put a frame around our summer recovery. We've used the MSDE power standards. We've used our own curriculum units to come up with what we want. We feel are the key concepts that we want elementary kids to come away from the summer with. We've identified those for each grade level. And what we'll be doing then is looking at those standards, and we will, as a math resource team, be writing the pre-assessment. specific to find out how well the kids are understanding the standards. And then we'll teach them for the 5 weeks, and then we'll give them an assessment very close to the pre, and we'll find out how much progress they've gained during those times.
Who will be doing those pre-tests?
The classroom teachers will be giving the pre-tests towards the end of the school year. So we had conversations about that. We didn't want the little kids to come in this summer and have somebody maybe that they've never really seen before in front of them doing the summer recovery and giving the pre-test. So the classroom teachers or people that they're familiar with in their schools will be administering those.
And as far as the pre-tests are concerned, we really wanted to stay away from that last week of school because we know it gets crazy with all the different activities and closing out the end of the year. So there is a window.
I saw the dates.
Yeah, 6/1 through 6/11 is the window that all pre-assessments will be given.
And the law indicates, Ms. Herbert, that the assessment must be given before the program starts.
Right.
So we don't waste any time when we get them in the summer.
Okay.
And the post-assessment is going to be done the last 2 days of
within
summer
this-
school?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a window
Yes.
there within, and that's in your plan as well when it'll be provided.
Yeah, it said here that it would be 2 full days after summer recovery, but it looked like it was the last 2 days of summer recovery.
So that is, those 2 days before and 2 days after are for our teachers to do data analysis, to make sure they're doing the reporting and making sure that these students, when they arrive to school in the city schools of September, 8th, that they are going to go ahead and hit the ground running, that teachers have that data in the dashboard, they can see it and what the kids received, how well did they do, and moving on from there. Very similarly, I know Mary would like to briefly speak to the middle school experience as well.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this evening. In the middle school mathematics, we are looking at a bit of a two-pronged approach to how we are going to address the learning disruption for students. So we have developed a pretest that aligns to the core standards for learning, and that's in accordance with MSDE guidance. And we are going to give that as a pre and post assessment in order to measure the growth that our students make during the summer learning program. At the same time, we are also using a researched evidence-based intervention program that will occur during part of the time that the students are with the teachers every day. It's through their Renaissance Star Math and Freckle program. So students will take, before they leave school in June, during that window that we just spoke about, they will take an assessment that is adaptive and will start out at the student's grade level with math questions aligned to our standards. And as the students get the questions, if they get any of them wrong, it will adapt to their grade level of where they are. So it will give them questions that are targeted at their ability level. So we'll be doing two things. We will be remediating on grade level instruction that students may have missed throughout this school year, as well as closing gaps from prior learning and prior standards that they may have missed due to the learning disruption from last year or even from previous years.
And then today we were talking with middle school principals, Mary, Brian Weinholt, the secondary ELA supervisor, and I met with middle school principals at their meeting, and we were talking about feedback. So at the end of the post-assessment, we would really like teachers to be able to provide some written feedback for next year's teacher on how the student performed and some things that they can continue to work on as we progress through the next school year. So really, take an individualized approach to each student who's participating to help the next year's teacher in those team meetings when they start to discuss instruction for the following school year.
Mr. Kyler?
Starting this week, email is going to go out to the kids, the students selected, and then reminder emails, etc. What if I have little Johnny in the 5th grade and I'm worried that he needs something this summer, but I don't get an email? What's my option
as a parent,
So,
let somebody know, can he do this?
yeah, and that's a great question. If Steve Wernick's on, if he could jump on, because I know just today, Mr. Kyler, we were speaking of that. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about our plan there in regards to, obviously, we're sending out our notes, right? We're doing our diligence there, but we need to know who hasn't responded yet so we can provide a little bit more of a personalized touch. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Good evening, board members, Dr. Lockhart, Commissioner Weaver. So our first phase is to really look at, and principals met with their teachers, met with their instructional teams, and said, what students really need the services first, looking at the data, our benchmarks, as well as grades. And so they developed a list of students that they first are going to invite. And that's what they're actually putting into eSchool Plus to then have that letter or that email generated for the parents. Once that information comes back, if we receive, information that certain students aren't able to, they will then go to an additional list that they have for students who still need the support. And they will continue until they have all their spaces filled for the number of teachers that they have supporting the program. In addition, they are in contact with parents through parent conferences with their teachers, as well as parents who may call in to say, hey, I would like my student to participate in this based on needs. And so again, it's really needs driven based on the supports that need to be provided by that grade level teacher.
Yeah, but Mr. Kyler, and Steve also mentioned today how important it is that we just pick up the phone, right? And we call and we tell the parent, hey, listen, we really want him here or really want her here this year, and she's going to benefit greatly. I think sometimes just having that personal touch, as we've discussed, is going to be very, very important.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? I think all mine were answered. Oh, go ahead, Don. I have one more question, but go ahead.
Okay, I just had one other one on the bottom of page 2. It says that we'll assume that the student is AM only unless the full day box is checked. What is the full day situation?
Absolutely, yeah. We're more than happy to respond to that. Mr.
Good evening, everyone. Our students with disabilities may certainly participate in the gen ed recovery options. Some students with disabilities, about 350 of them, typically participate in extended school year services. That's separate from special education recovery or compensatory services. So what's happening right now in our schools, we have to make a determination for every one of our 3,000 students that receive special education services. So right now we're in the process, our team started that last week, in making those determinations. So we want to make sure our students have the opportunity to do multiple things this summer. So for example, some students may participate in extended school year and receive those services in the morning, but may receive recovery or compensatory services through special education in the afternoon. So it won't be every student, it won't be everywhere, but many students will have an opportunity to do a full day experience based on their eligibility. It's a good opportunity for us to take advantage of transportation structures, the meals that are in place, those kinds of things. So again, we'll keep making our determinations. We're going to try to get through as many of them as we can by the end of this school year. The process for special education on determining the number of students that went is a little bit different. It's an ongoing thing because it has to be done as part of an IEP team decision or an agreement between the case manager and the family outside of an IEP team meeting. So it can happen in or out, but it just takes time to be able to do that. So our staff's been working very hard. They're all well trained on what to do, and then we're supporting them throughout the process.
Thank you, Mr. Shopney.
Thanks, Nick.
Anything else? I just have one for Mr. Anderson. I know 2 months ago I did a snafu, and then you told me that we were able to get $1 million grant for ESOL students. So now where does that come into play with this?
Well, there's a part of it here.
Okay.
It's if you go to throughout the plan later, and first of all, I want to commend Pam Myers, also our early childhood supervisor. We are going to be offering pre-K recovery as well, which is very cool, which is in the plan. But to your point, Mrs. Herbert, our ESOL enrichment opportunity, she's correct. Our board members, we are one of 10 school districts that were awarded the GEAR grant of $1 million. We learned of that last week, I think at the end of last week. And it's a cumulative effort between Mr. Streaker's office, our health and education. Yeah, do you mind speaking to it real quick? Before Ms. McCausland, I have to say this before I forget, because I know Ms. Smith's in the back also, but I just shared this with Ms. McCabe. You know, we were trying to figure out how many students are going to be invited. I want to share some good news. Third quarter, the preliminary results showed that there was 410 fewer students with failing grades in this last quarter. So, you know, that's a testament to the schools that are working hard to make sure they're serving kids. But I want to go ahead and turn it over to Ms. McCausland.
Sure. So this was a geared grant, and we were one of 10 schools in the state to get this grant. It was $1 million. And I will say that it was a very quick turnaround time. So if you've ever been involved in writing a grant, typically what could take months, we got done in a week. It was a four-prong approach. So the summer enrichment for our ESOL program, it targets grades 3 through 8. Pam Mesta wrote that portion of the grant. That'll take place the last 2 weeks of June prior to summer recovery. And the purpose, they'll be coming out to Bear Branch, and we want to re-engage students and families. And we thought that was really important to happen prior to summer recovery taking place. So that's the first part. That'll be happening over the next 2 summers. The second part is mental health services and support pre-K through 12, and that part of the grant was written by Amy Jagoda. Sources of Strength, we're going to be expanding that program to other schools and supporting secondary students with the team of Jim Rodriguez, Chris Tobias, Brad Bevins, and Pam Mesta. And then the fourth part is mental health with a second step expansion pre-K through 1, which is now through grades 5 under Kim Muniz. So it really was, we were working collaboratively across departments and trying to meet the needs that our students and families have through this grant.
And so that'll be for the next 2 or 3 years? 2 years? 3 years? Okay.
If I could, Jason, just real quick, thank you, Angie, for sharing that. I had briefed board members on that. That's an example of what John was referencing earlier, when we've got a lot of things coming at us, and we've got people looking for opportunities for our system. And again, it's an applicant. Some of these are competitive, and this was a competitive one we had to go after. One of 10. I'm really proud of our folks constantly looking for opportunities wherever we may find the niche that's needed. So thank you for doing that. It's extra work on top, but it's certainly worth it for our students.
This is really an exciting opportunity, and I do want to thank you all for, with so much going on right now, everything going on right now, that you're still able to find these opportunities for our students. So thank you for those efforts.
Okay, all right. Thank you all very much. And now we'll move on to the action items. I need a motion for the approval of personnel appointments.
So moved.
So moved by Dr. Dorsey, second by?
I'll second.
By Ms. Battaglia. Dr. Lockhart. Thank you all.
Thank you. Board members, I have 2 appointments I'm recommending for you this evening. The first is Sean Gertsch. He's currently a teacher, business education teacher at Liberty High School. We're recommending him to assistant principal at Winters Mill High School beginning July 1st. That fills a vacancy due to retirement there. And secondly, you heard us speaking earlier about Mr. Hill and his pending retirement. We're recommending Amy Gramata, currently principal at North Carroll Middle, to director of middle schools beginning July 1st. We're very excited about what these leaders are going to bring to our system. And while there's, we're sad to see folks with, like Mr. Hill, with tons of educational, institutional knowledge of the system. He's done a great job of creating a leadership legacy, and at the same time, we're excited to see Ms. Gramata come on board in this capacity. Mr. Gertsch will be a great addition at Winters Mill High School with his experience and skill set. And so those are the 2 recommendations I bring for your consideration this evening.
Thank you. Comments? All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. I need a motion for the approval of personnel actions.
So moved.
By Ms. Savigny, second by Ms. Battaglia. Dr. Lockhart, you're on.
Okay, board members, as noted in the agenda packet, I have for approval in the personnel action items, 1 new hire and 2 leaves of absence.
Comments? Questions? I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of personnel transaction items.
So moved.
By Dr. Dorsey and a second by
Second.
Ms. Battaglia. Dr. Lockhart.
Hey, board members, we're bringing you transaction items. These are administrative transfers. This is about the time where we typically would do that. While last year was certainly unique, and I guess this year is too, there were none to bring you last year. This year, we bring you 5. First, Glenn Messier, principal at Mechanicsville, to principal of Linton Springs Elementary. That would be effective July 1st. And then some assistant principal transfers. Christine Hill, who's currently at Shiloh Middle, to assistant principal at West Middle School. Lisa Livingston, who's assistant principal at West Middle School, to assistant principal at Shiloh Middle School. Greg Rader, assistant principal at Piney Ridge Elementary, to assistant principal at Cranberry Station Elementary. And John Code, who's currently assistant principal at Winfield, to assistant principal at Piney Ridge Elementary. Those will all be effective July 1st. And as we've discussed, these are transfers of existing administrators in the system.
Ms. Savigny.
And Dr. Lockhart, I mean, this is just asking a question about how long have these folks generally been in the positions that they're currently in?
All right, so it'll vary a little bit, but generally, I think, Ms. McCabe, most of these folks have been anywhere from 4 to 6 years. Is that correct? And a lot of times, particularly with assistant principals, as we look to build capacity of future leaders, we're looking for opportunities for folks to get different experiences in our system, bring leadership skills and talents to schools that maybe need what they have in their background or skill set. Am I about right in that
Yes,
years of?
that's correct, Dr. Lockhart. All of the assistant principals have between 4 and 6 years in their current school. I have the exact numbers if you'd like them.
No, that's fine. I was just trying to generally understand.
Yes. And so it's at the point, between 4 and 6 years where we look to move an assistant principal to allow them to grow and gain new knowledge from a new experience.
Okay. And Dr. Lockhart, do we expect to see, I mean, this is a smaller number than we typically see on an annual basis. Do we expect there to be some for high schools and maybe additional? And obviously, we'll need to replace Ms. Gramada at North Carroll Middle. That's an appointment that would have to happen.
Right.
Do we expect a lot more of these through the end of the year, or is this pretty much what we're looking at?
I'm not expecting a lot more, but you just mentioned there are sometimes some dominoes with Ms. Gramada being promoted that potentially could create some dominoing somewhere in the system. But
Okay.
we're not anticipating bringing a lot more of these to you.
No.
Okay, great.
Okay. All right, after that, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. I need a motion for the approval of the award of bids.
So moved.
By Ms. Battaglia, second by
I'll second.
Ms. Savigny. Dr. Lockhart.
Okay, board members, there are 8 items on the award of bids this evening. So, Ms. Herbert, I'll look to you. I can certainly do each one individually if you'd like.
I think we can go through all of them, just,
Okay. I'll give you some background on each, and then we can open it up for questions. The
pretty
first
self-explanatory.
The first are the relocation of portable classrooms, as we spoke about earlier, from Piney Ridge to Elmer Wolf. We talked about this in the construction report. We plan to move 2 portables from Piney Ridge, one being to Elmer Wolf. The portable classrooms needed at the school to meet space due to the requirements related to the Title I program at that school. We talked a little bit about that, and all the folks that have been involved in kind of looking at that and trying to make things over the last couple of years work. The second is for Maxim Healthcare Services. This contract is to provide 2 contract nurses to support our COVID-19 testing program. You remember we stood up our own testing program, and that's actually worked very well for us. As you know, our own nurses are, and so we're looking to contract those nurses to support that program and also to support the efforts of our own nursing staff as needed. Our own nurses are required daily to support students within the schools each day. We heard a little snapshot of Nurse Ronk this evening in the 1,000 things she does each and every day, amazing things. And our nurses, as you know, have been staffing our vaccination clinics, doing a great job of getting our folks vaccinated. And so these additional resources are needed to support not only the testing sites, but also to help us with fill-in vacancies as we have them. Our nurses are critical to keeping our schools open and running. Third is, as it relates to staff vehicles. As you're aware, we don't have an annual budget for the replacement of staff vehicles. We run them into the ground for as long as we can, and then we replace the vehicles in years when we can identify some funds available near the end of the year. We haven't brought a request back in 4 years. I asked about this since we've replaced a staff vehicle. So it's been a while, but we have some vehicles that have to be replaced because we have run them into the ground based on age, condition, mileage, et cetera. So there's 2 awards there. The first award is for 3 replacement staff vehicles for our pupil personnel workers. The second, number 4, is a vehicle for the coordinator of the school security position. If you remember, we brought some support to Dwayne. Number 5 is a purchasing list of various items that schools will use to purchase building operations supplies for next year. Number 6 is the item to improve serving lines in the cafeteria at 5 of our schools. The new serving lines are designed to improve functionality and efficiencies. We've noted in the past that Ms. Sarno and her team have brought our food services program to a place of really sound fiscal stability. So part of her plan is to make these types of program improvements from the food services fund. So there's no impact on the system's operating budget. Number 7, similarly, this award is to provide a walk-in cooler at Robert Moten Elementary School. Again, that's part of Ms. Sarno's plan to renew or replace program assets as needed, and there's also no impact on our operating budget as it comes from food services budget. Number 8 is a buying guide for schools to buy school health and training supplies as needed. I think that's it, right? 8, yes. Got them all.
Comments, questions? Ms. Savigny?
So should I start with the first one, I guess? On the relocation, this is just for one set of relocations, so that we should expect another?
We hope to be able to bring the relocation for Freedom at the next board meeting in May. So this is for the Elmer Wolf, the moving it from Piney to Elmer Wolf, the double portable classroom.
Okay, so I looked at the CIP, and we have $185,000 in the CIP for portable relocations. So it looks like we'll probably exceed that this year. Is that money that would still come from the capital fund, or?
Well, we'll do a couple of things. We'll work with Mr. Hartlove and his team at year end to see if there's any cross budget category transfers available, and if not, then we would have to go to the capital fund. And so if we exceed that amount in that category, we would have to turn to one of the other projects, such as infrastructure renewal or some other eligible project to make it happen.
Okay.
I don't know do you have anything clearer on that at this point?
No,
Okay. Chris agrees.
Anything else?
So should I just keep going?
Yeah, keep going, yes, keep going.
On the Maximum Healthcare Services, so the $275,000, what period of time is that meant to cover? Is that meant to cover needs over the next year, or is that an ongoing contract?
Be a question for,
If Carl's available, there's Carl. I see him.
Yeah, Ms. Savigny, I would say to you that the contract is to cover what we believe is our maximum amount that we would be paying for those nurses through the end of the school year and potentially into the summer recovery if we need to. Quite honestly, we can't fully staff all of that. So I'm confident we won't even spend all of that money because what happens is, it depends upon the availability of nurses. Like currently, we're only able to stand up fully 2 of our testing sites, one at South Carroll High School, Westminster High now. And we have started to pilot the program at Manchester Valley High School, but it's relatively based on staffing and availability of Maxim to provide us those staff members. And we also are doing orientation today, actually today and yesterday, for nurses, for Maxim nurse to work as a substitute nurse at one of our elementary schools. So that proposal includes 2 substitute nurses full-time, as well as 4 RNs and 4 LPNs for the testing sites. At this time, we currently are only employing one RN for a school, not 2, because we haven't been able to locate the second. And we are currently employing 2 RNs and I believe 3 LPNs. And then we're supplementing that at Manchester Valley with a floater nurse to try to stand that up to the extent we can. And certainly our priority is to have our schools open and staffed with nurses. So that's the focus should we need to. So I hope that provides clarity. If you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
It does. No, that's great. Thanks, Carl.
Sure.
I do one on nurses while you're here.
Sure.
The RNs and LPNs, in our system of the regular employees, do we have any LPNs anymore, or has it transitioned to all RNs now?
We still currently employ 2 LPNs, I believe, but as LPNs have retired from the system or separated from service, we are hiring RNs at this time. Mr. Kyler, we've been doing that for the past couple years. I think through attrition. We've also had an LPN earn her RN license, so we've also had that happen. So that's happened as well.
Ms. Savigny?
And on the category 5s, is that me? Is somebody trying to? Oh, that's just an echo that I'm hearing of myself. Okay. So items 3 and 4. Chris, these are the first one. Those are a net 0 to the fleet. Those additional 3, they're replacement vehicles, right?
Correct. Those are replacement vehicles.
Okay, but 4 is actually a +1 to the fleet, but that's for Dwayne's additional position. That is what I think I heard you say, Dr.
That's
Lockhart.
correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
And we are very sensitive to that. So that I'm glad you picked up on that because we're sensitive to it, and recognizing it is a good thing.
Right. Okay. And then the I just wanted to make a comment about 6 and 7, how it's just always can't say enough good things about Miss Sarno and how well she runs the food services operations and the budget. It's great that we can see that she's able to make these capital improvements without it having any budgetary impact. So, and then the last one was just on the health and training supplies. I don't recall seeing this kind of a list in the last several years. Is this a new contract that, or renewal of one that we had with a prior vendor for a long period of time?
I don't know.
Or it could just be that we've seen it and I just don't recall it, so.
Yeah, I can't imagine that we haven't done this in the past, but I can't. My memory's not that good, so I can't, swear to it. But there's no reason why we would be doing this now when we haven't done it in the past.
Right. Okay.
We'll reach out to Ms. Codner and get clarification
Okay.
to you as to when we last renewed.
All right, any other comments? All right, I call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. Now I need a motion for the approval of the National School Boards Association affiliate fees.
So moved.
So moved by Dr. Dorsey and second by
Second.
Ms. Battaglia. Dr. Lockhart.
Thank you. Board members, when you join the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, you're also able to join the national organization NSBA. We bring this on an annual basis. It is the dues that provide you access to their professional materials and professional development. We heard from Dr. Dorsey this evening that she recently attended, and also additional services such as advocacy at the national level. And over the years, we've had board members participating on the MABE Federal Relations Network, including Mr. Kyler from this board, which is a direct relationship to the advocacy aspect of NSBA and MABE membership.
Comments, questions? Okay, and I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. And this time, we will move to the discussion. And Ms. Gaddis, do you have any information on the Community Advisory Committee? Council? Nothing at this time?
Our next meeting will be April 27th.
April 27th will be their next meeting. All right.
Ms. Herbert,
Yes.
Ms. Gaddis, do you have an idea of what the presentations are going to be at that particular meeting?
The Community Advisory Council requested that they'd like to have a presentation from someone in the community that the school system is partnering with. So we're bringing in the Girls and Boys Club to talk about the partnership with the school system.
Excellent. Thank you.
And we have a lot of good partnerships.
Sure
A
do.
lot.
Yep.
All right. Anything else on the Community Advisory Council? Any unfinished business, new business? Yes, Ms. Taglia.
I mean, we have been receiving a lot of emails lately from parents, concerns regarding curriculum, and I think, you know, we've got the kids back in the schools. We're made great strides in doing that. I think maybe it's potentially a good time before the new year to dive into curriculum a little bit.
Would anybody else like to make any comments? Okay.
I'll second that. I'm hearing a lot of things as well. I'm receiving a lot of emails about potential curriculum issues. So I think, does it make sense maybe to put it on an agenda for a future meeting to start maybe diving a little deeper
Yes.
into some of those concerns?
Yes, I think we all have been receiving some emails about curriculum. Dr. Dorsey?
No,
did
I was
you-
just wondering if there is a specific curriculum that you're hearing about. I mean, because that's covering a lot of ground there.
It is, and maybe it just, I don't know about you, so Ms. Pataglia, you brought it up, but I'm just endorsing the fact that I heard the same things. It's been on a lot of different topics. I've heard about certain health topics, about some AP government topics. I've
Studies.
heard social studies issues. I've heard of opinion writing in elementary schools. Like I've heard it coming from a lot of different directions. So I just think I agree that it might make sense to start talking about it a little bit more.
Mr. Kyler?
And I think some of it, like we talked earlier about people not understanding the system, some of it might not be strictly curriculum. It might be things they do as fillers, things that the community and parents are offended by, which may not be strictly curriculum. It may be something they've added to the class, that kind of, I hear that too.
All right. Dr. Lockhart?
No, I was just going to say, Mr. Kyler, you make a good point. Our curriculum and our materials and resources for our curriculum are reviewed and approved by the board every year, I believe. To your point, sometimes we do run into issues where someone has chosen to use a resource or a link or something that isn't necessarily approved as part of what they can come to get from us, but rather something that they perhaps believe that they can utilize to support whatever the standard or the curriculum content might be. And that potentially, as Mr. Kyler illustrated, could be a concern for a parent or a community member. I'm more than happy to talk about those things. I'm more than happy to address those things. I know a lot of times, putting my principal hat on, I would work with a parent and a teacher and address those issues at that level. And so, but I'm certainly, if there's concern, would welcome a conversation so that we can better support the system in that way.
I know we have just been inundated with COVID all year, and I think now people are looking above and beyond, and I don't think it will hurt any of us to pick a date where we could discuss this. Do you all have any July? I don't know, we got to get through we got a lot of stuff to do
Yes,
yet.
yes.
So I was thinking, since you brought this up, July, August,
Could I make a recommendation?
yes.
Ms. Herbert, excuse me for interrupting you.
No, that's fine.
Perhaps we could, because don't we typically bring those materials in the late summer, early fall for approval? I mean, that might be a perfect time to tie that to the conversation when we're looking at
Okay.
approving curriculum materials, approving courses at the high school
Yeah,
level, et cetera.
absolutely. And Ms. Battaglia, I just want to go ahead and respond to your comment. Myself, as well as Ms. McCausland, as well as Mr. Shockney, as well as many of our content supervisors have also fielded concerns as it relates to specific resources that have been used in a classroom. One of the things that we will have to begin to figure out how to remedy and address is that many, not all, but many of the concerns that we've heard are discretionary based on the classroom. As Mr. Kyler said, it's a teacher utilizing something that they wanted to use that necessarily wasn't an approved resource of our school system. And when you're working in an instructional technology environment, open educational resources are availed through the internet. And so what we have to now do as part of our capacity building of our teachers is build the capacity of our teachers to choose wisely, to know the climate, to know the environment. As Ms. Savigny said, to prepare our teachers to present material objectively and not necessarily take a side, if you will. So we are definitely at a tipping point here. It's a good thing, but it's part of the capacity building of our teachers in a classroom now is very different with all of our instructional technology and learning management systems where we should be going, but we have to equip our instructional staff now to make good decisions for their students.
Well, and you bring up, as you're talking about that, the whole topic of, copywriting in this digital age, and what's appropriate or what's within boundaries and what's outside of boundaries. So as you're talking about this, it's more like the practices or where people are using their, let's say their professional judgment to decide whether to use a particular.
The professional discretion, right?
Yes.
As a practitioner, you're deciding, is this appropriate or not? Because it's a resource that some people inadvertently, honestly, may have made a bad decision in choosing something.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we're looking at students actually navigating themselves through the internet and finding resources to inquire, right? So a lot of it has to do also is building the capacity of our families as well. And I just spoke about this at the County Council of Parent Organizations the other evening is we have a lot to do now as a school system to put in place our students in a position to be successful but also safe.
Right.
And I'm sorry, Ms.
No, I
Massey,
was
go
going to
ahead.
say, in addition to copyrights, we also talked a bit about trademarks as well. I mean, there's just a whole gamut of things that really come into play when we look at what's going on in this digital age. And that was one of the sessions that I attended through NSBA. So just a great connection. But I hear what you're saying now. You're not just specifically talking about one curriculum, but it's more the
it's
practices.
little pieces of different things. I mean, you hear where a YouTube video was played and the teacher, I didn't view this, and it's like, you should have viewed that before you submitted and you showed it to a bunch of kids. I mean, there are things, though, that are even outside of that, and I think, with Google Classroom, we entered this pandemic and we were like, okay, we've got to do something soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just not knowing the resources that were available, and we need to look into them a little bit more.
The thing I'm concerned about is soon when they said rogue, if we have a teacher that is using the internet and then gets off our area and puts up something else that we have not approved, does that open us up for a hit? That's what concerns me on that, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, when they said rogue, I'm thinking, oh my golly days, the internet.
Right, you're by opening us up, you mean in terms of virus or
Right,
ransomware?
yes, or a hack.
I certainly think, Gary
I
Davis would
just thought of
probably-
that.
Yeah. Ed?
For years now, we've been very rigorous in communicating to instructional staff that they are not to unilaterally go out and use unapproved sites and educational technology apps. I mean, we've been beating that in their heads now for 5 years. And it's been a consistent struggle.
Right.
Because I guarantee you that the colleges are teaching them to do exactly what we're telling them.
Yeah, that's accurate. And I know, being a part of different communications, we have approved applications that we are endorsing and utilizing. But the truth of the matter is we need to better prepare our staff to make better decisions because, as Dr. Dorsey's saying, there is so much out there and it's not quality content.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But let me take your comment one step further.
Right.
All right, I just finished a case a year ago. We were in U.S. District Court, we were at the U.S. Court of Appeals, we were at the United States Supreme Court, which thankfully agreed not to hear the case. But it involved the approved world history curriculum and a unit within the approved world history curriculum on learning about Islamic culture. And you had a teacher who didn't really think through the creation of an assignment, and he had a fill-in-the-blanks question, set of questions, which included true, false, Muslims are more devout than Christians. Bad question. It was a bonehead question. And, of course, the parent of a student who was a former Marine in Iraq was deeply offended.
Mm-hmm.
It was not the intent of the teacher. The principal didn't know anything about it. But nonetheless, we were in federal court. We were at the U.S. Court of Appeals. We won, but we spent a couple $100,000 in litigation because somebody didn't think it through.
Devanshi has her hand up.
Devanshi.
On the topic of curriculum and curriculum changes, I've had extensive conversation with students over the past year about changes that they would like to see in the curriculum, issues that they've had with the curriculum and what they're being taught in the classroom with certain assignments and all. And I just think that overall, we do need to look towards making certain aspects of our curriculum more equitable and making sure there's a lot less bias. And that's bias overall in terms of any significant, taking a side on any issue, having that sort of bias training with our teachers, and also involving more students within the curriculum writing process. I know the county is looking towards some measures towards changing some aspects of the curriculum, but I really hope that we can involve more students in that process because we are very passionate about this, and we would really like to see more change brought to it.
Thank you. But you understand what I was talking about, Dr. Lockhart. I mean, yes, I see where they're going off sites and all that, you hear about it, but I'm just worried about us as a public school system and viruses and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Mrs. Herbert, if I may, Gary Davis has done an exceptional job of keeping us in what I would refer to as a walled garden, if you will, where we are able to avail appropriate content within our network, as you referenced earlier. And he's actually talked about an actual virtual desktop where students would have their information controlled when we were in the virtual environment and students were at home. The reality is yes, we need to be more cognizant on going back to appropriately providing appropriate information to students at appropriate age levels, et cetera. We have great resources here, which do go through a very stringent process through our curriculum council, and you all vote on it. We feel confident in that. There is no doubt as we evolve and become more contemporary that we can enhance our processes to make sure that we become more contemporary as well. And Dr. Lockhart and I have briefly had some conversations about what that might look like also.
Ms. Savigny?
And I agree wholeheartedly with that, Mr. Anderson. I think it's just that we were kind of thrust into a situation this year, and now we just have to kind of catch up with putting guidelines in place that marry, and we need to build the capacity of our teachers, and we need to show our students how to make good choices as well. But I think that there is a fair, it was a very politically charged year on many fronts. And I think that we've all said on many occasions that, politics needs to stay out of the classroom. And Dr. Lockhart, I think you've even been quoted on several occasions as saying, your best teachers are the ones where you don't know what their political beliefs are, right? And I think that that's how we need to teach those classes. And I think that parents have also seen a lot more of it this year, right? With their kids being at home and virtual. And parents didn't necessarily see firsthand some of the things that were being put in front of their students. And this year they are. And that's why I think we're getting a lot of these emails of parents saying, wait a minute, what's going on here? And whether it's a conscious bias or an unconscious bias, I've seen in even some of my own kids' materials that, we talk about opinion writing and how you influence it, and you say, well, you have to back up your opinion by text provided, by information provided in the text. But then when you look in the text, there's only information given to support one side of the opinion. So if the kids want to choose the other side, they can't because there isn't text material to support it.
So I've talked to our colleagues right here in the school system that I work with daily, and they talk about the same thing about their students in other school systems. This is a big issue. And to Mr. O'Mealy's comment, I can remember being a first-year teacher running into that. Also, this was before technology. I am old. So before technology, we would put our foot in our mouth by the way we presented information. We didn't intend to, but the reality is, bad question, which just opened up a can of worms. We have to prepare our folks, and that's part of quality instruction, higher level, appropriate questioning. Right. So I do believe we'll get there. We're up for the challenge as well.
All right, so we do know we want to look into this, and we can start with when we start reviewing that.
Yeah, summertime might be a
Yep,
good.
summertime, yep. So we'll stay in contact with Dr. Lockhart and all of us, and then we'll get to working on that. Anything else for the order? All right. Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 at 4 p.m., we have a FY22 operating budget work session in the boardroom at 125 North Court Street. And then on Wednesday, May 12th, 2021 at 5 p.m., we will have the board meeting with citizen participation in the room at 125 North Court Street. And Dr. Lockhart.
If I could, I'd like to suggest a closed session prior to that budget work session.
Okay.
We have a lot going on with negotiations and such. I think
right,
that would
that's
be
fine.
a good touch base point
Okay.
for that.
And
On the 5th, Dr.
Yes,
Lockhart?
and you will get us a starting time?
Yes, I will.
Later? Well, I appreciate that.
Yep.
Anything else? All right. I call for a motion to adjourn
So moved.
by Ms. Savigny, second by Ms. Battaglia. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously. And thank you all very much and have a good evening.